Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Alcoholic. Oh. Life is just like that, either too short, too tall, never right. Okay. It feels really strange being able to touch the ceiling, but it's better to be able to touch the ceiling than not get off the ground, wouldn't you say? Besides, when you're standing up here with the size of this obviously made for tall men podium, you can't see the first two rows when you're like, you know, as tall as I am. Okay, I'm delighted to be back in Newport, Oregon. You know, this was planned a while ago, and I was just tagging along with your speakers. You're going to have, you know, Phoebe was great last night, and I think you're going to thoroughly hear one of my favorite speakers in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not objective, but even so. Tonight, Jane and Dodie tomorrow morning, and I think this is going to be an incredible weekend for you. But today, I just want to talk to you as an alcoholic, a woman, a 57-year-old woman alcoholic, just a regular person. You know, I've done these workshops, and I do them around, and I'm doing less and less of them and speaking less and less because, you know, life, the quality of life is much more important than the quantity. And I also believe that the longer I'm sober, my obligation is to share my experience. And before you can ever have experience, you have a lot of knowledge, and that's what sobriety presents over the years, is that you get all this knowledge, and one day, if you practice the steps and practice this way of life, eventually it becomes experience to some degree or another. And just when you think you have all this experience and you're suddenly about to embrace upon wisdom, you find out that, you know, the onion peels and you have to do it again. And that kind of humility is, I believe, what keeps everybody grounded in Alcoholics Anonymous. But today I don't feel like any different than anybody else, you know. So people say, you know, you've got 34 and a half years of sobriety, you know, how does that feel? It feels exactly the same as you feel when you're happy. It feels exactly the same as you feel when you're sad. It feels exactly the same as you feel when you're depressed. You know, the difference is that, thank God, I have practiced this way of life long enough so that when those things hit me, I can either receive the happiness or I can go to the steps and remove the sadness and the depression. And I probably, and I don't know this, but I get there quicker because I can't stand the pain. I'm just have an intolerance to discomfort and pain. And, you know, life is like the ocean out there, that magnificent, beautiful ocean. It comes in and it goes out, and you never know one day to the next, particularly in Oregon, what the waves are going to be, big, small, curled up, you know. And that's exactly what my life is about, and that's what your life will be about. And so I can't stand up here and tell you, you know, everything's, you get on this roller coaster, you get on this ride in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's just like uphill all the way. It isn't. There's curves and turns and down and up, and it's about how you deal with them. And it is my humble opinion that you deal with them sometimes gracefully and sometimes not gracefully. And you have to be able to talk about it. So I have not prepared for this workshop because I don't want to talk about what I know. Anybody that's been sober for 34 and a half years has got half a bloody brain going on in there at all. Any brain cells with any activity probably has read the book a few times. You know, and if they haven't been, you know, involved in the 12 and 12, then, you know, I don't know how the hell that they're even capable of breathing in and out, but some people can do that, I guess. I'm not one of them. And for the first maybe 16, 18 years, I had a lot of knowledge, and then the last 10 years, I get knowledge. And I get it from reading and studying and from looking about outside of AA and in AA. I'm just a seeker. I was born a seeker. I mean, people say, well, I was never a seeker. Well, I thought, well, you know something? I don't think you would have been born if you weren't a seeker. I've got the funny feeling that whatever happened on the other side over here, they just said, look, here's all these seeker types. Better make them alcoholics because just be too overwhelming if they don't have some solution. So for the first half of their life, let's just really give them something to seek, and then for the next half of their life, let's give them the answer and the solution, and maybe they'll be okay. And I think that's how, babies and drunks got protected on the way in. And so, my sister passed away on January 12th of this year. And, there's events that occur in your life, and, other people have died. In fact, I've had 8 or 9 friends of mine die in the last year or two. I've had the anchors of my sobriety pass away in the last 2 years. The fence posts for me. The people that I've been sober with and stood in rooms with for 34 and a half years. The people that said the things that, one day you're sitting in a meeting, minding your own business, judging the speaker, and and, a guy stands up there that you've known and you're listening because you've heard him before, and, you like every now and then, some people you just listen for the similarities because they, he talks eventually, from his heart and his soul. And he said, I don't pray to God, I pray from God. And as his hand reached toward his stomach from God, I realized that my God was inside of me, and I was almost 20 years sober. And I burst into tears. Because I had knowledge of that, but I had not experienced it until that day. And I had knowledge of it, but I hadn't experienced it. And that's now what life is about for me. I am ready to receive the experience of life more. Doesn't mean I haven't been doing it. It just means I'm not aware of it yet. Because I believe the old thing that I heard years ago on Alcoholics Anonymous, you've probably all heard it, that, God has the solution before you even know you have the problem. And it just is a point of view. It's a perception. It's how do you look at things. And in the last number of years, I have been practicing. I practice a step every month. It happens to be a group in Los Angeles. I could care less whether you have a group or not. I am not a guru. They are not my groups. It is not my words, my paperwork, my anything. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm just a member of Alcoholics Anonymous who happens to do the kind of thing in my very own way, and have done seminars and whatever on it for Alcoholics Anonymous and have no benefit from it, and there's a printout and you're welcome to take it and you don't have to take it. Because I am so sick of people calling up and saying, well, now, you're this. No, it's not mine. I haven't attended your meetings. I don't attend your group. I'm just a person sharing my experience. Take it or leave it. And I hope you take it, because the women that I've been sharing with well over 10 years in the same group, we practice a step a month. Now, practice is really a word that people in Alcoholics Anonymous just hate. Study and talk is fine. We can go study all we want on a given night. We'll just go to a step study, and then, we'll look around, see what everybody's wearing, what's happening. And, then we'll read a portion of the thing, and, and then we're going to and every now and then you're in there and you go, oh, my God, that's really great. And then, go out, you got that experience, and you're off to the next thing. And if you're lucky, you got a sponsor you can talk to about the steps. And what the hell does this mean? And I don't get that at all. And, and you hang up the phone and say, I don't think they get it either. But what you don't know about a good sponsor is they're running to the big book in the 12 and 12, or they're calling somebody else saying, what the hell was that about? And they can't wait to catch you the next time and share all that wisdom that they just experienced after they got that they didn't get it, And if we think it's otherwise, then we're silly. And I think the greatest spiritual giants in Alcoholics Anonymous are the people that survive day to day, from 1 minute of sobriety to 1 hour to 24 hours to 1 day to year after year, after they fall down and get up and fall down and get up and do it their way and find out that didn't work, and do it their way and continue to find out it doesn't work, and then they do it AA's way, and then they find out that AA doesn't really have a way other than to put up guideposts, and then you're back to being personal about it again, and then you have to find your way, and you listen to everybody, and you take a little bit of, and you know what the wonder of Alcoholics Anonymous is? Everybody shares from the heart here. They want you to have whatever it is. If they want you to have what they want, run the other way. Or if they want you to have what they have. The only people that you should be giving what you have are newcomers until they're on their feet and they can then take what they want. And that's when we use each other and talk to each other. I mean, I had the greatest flight up with Dodie on the plane and talking about my sister's passing and talking about the event for me and what it meant in my life. You know, one of the real changes, it rendered me unable to be anything but a 57-year-old member of Alcoholics Anonymous, a woman who has survived, a woman who feels, a woman who wants to experience life, a woman who understands the depth of grief and sadness, a woman who knows that at any given moment, all my character defects have now an arena in which to go mad. I'm the executor of my sister's estate. Take care of, I'm power of attorney and all that stuff for my brother-in-law. Now the director of and I'm retired, and I'm now the director of a couple of corporations. I'm cleaning up all of that stuff. I'm dealing with my family. I'm dealing with all of those things. From point zero, where I said, this is the year for me. This is the year where I'm going to draw, paint, sculpt. Who the hell knows? You know, all the stuff we're always going to do. You know, you got your list, I got mine. You know, we all have it, and we just refine it. And you know, I've just made the mistake somewhere along the way. I remember actually almost when I kind of like made it, I started to pray for whatever God wanted me to do to be of maximum service. You know, I don't know. Some goof off at a meeting must have been talking, and I must have heard that and thought, it's been a while since I've done that, and I think I'll do that. And, you know, and here I am. You know, January 12th, the great beyond says, well, she wanted something else to do. She's ready for another huge change. She's ready for a psychic and spiritual shift in her life. I think we have a perfect match here. Her sister is ready to come home, and she's ready to experience more. She's available. She's made the time. It's time. My sister went to her peace, and I found out how different I am. I found out who I am. I found out more about myself. Because there's an arena where I could have really, really had every single character defect that I've ever had come right back to the surface and take over. And until you have those changes in your life, you don't know how different you are. I mean, when I stepped off that, you know, executive role that I had, you know, I didn't know that I would be a completely different person 10 years later. I just handle things differently. I'm slower. Now, what's the big issue, of course? And this is all going to pertain to the 12 steps, because without them, I wouldn't know all this, and I wouldn't know what to do about it. And you know what the big issue for me now left in my life is control. You know, I mean, I've done them all. I've been powerless over everything since I've been sober. I mean, just name a character defect, I'm powerless over it, and I've like worked on it. But the ultimate thing is I'm powerless over control. Now, if the truth be known, and in 10 years I'll come back and we can talk about it, underneath all that control, of course, is trust and faith. That's what I'm really powerless over. I'm powerless over trusting or having faith. I still have moments of darkness where I think, oh my God, you know, and I, as a result of that, have to control things. I'm just you know, and it's not like I'm way beyond the control freak part. I'm much more sophisticated than that. You know, I've been sober long enough to do it in a really subtle way. I can even use God and AA to control things. If that isn't scary. Taking a little self-inventory in the night before you go to sleep and realize you just use Alcoholics Anonymous and God to like control half a day for people's lives and yours, and that's the truth. And you know, I laugh at myself about that, because the greatest gift I've been given in sobriety is how to look at what's wrong with me and get rid of it. How to make room, because I'm learning to receive. I am learning to receive. Now, I'm hopping all around, but all of this is going to make sense as we go through those steps, because the word receive is going to be in there. What's the biggest problem of an alcoholic, practicing alcoholic? What are they doing all of the time? They're drinking. But what do you have to do in order to drink? You got to control that mother. I mean, you got to control where you're getting it, when it's going to happen, who you're going to be with, who you got to play. It's about control. It's complete reliance on something outside of yourself and in complete control all the time. You better be in control. The few moments when you get so drunk you're like on the bathroom floor passed out, it's about the only relief you get, really, as a drunk, isn't it? You know? 2 seconds before you pass out, you have that moment where you think, oh, I'm at peace with man and God. You've had a spiritual experience, and then bam, you're on the floor. And then for every number of years you drink, you keep looking for that, that moment, bam, you're on the floor. I would like to tell you that when you get sober and you get over the money honeymoon stage of it, it comes back. Now you're sober. And now you need control again. And the more frightened I am, the more control I need. And then every now and then I go to a meeting or I talk to somebody. You got to have people you got to talk to on a regular basis that preferably have known you your whole sobriety. I mean, that's where you're going, really. You can fire and hire them. It's such a silly thing in Alcoholics Anonymous, but what the hell? Does it make any difference? It's just another experience. But try to have somebody, a friend, eventually. I have Gretchen and people that you can just talk to like for 30 years so that you can say nothing to them and they get it. So you can say, my sister died, and they get it. They cry with you. Not for you, with you. With you. So you don't have to explain the dynamic of your family because they've heard it for 30 years. They now know you're over your head with dynamic. And when you start to need to control and make everybody perfect so you feel safe, they say, wait a minute, that's not a good thing. You're not looking at that with the right colors in your eyes. That's black, and that's white, and that's yellow, and they'll help you. They'll help you put a color to your emotions into your life. A sponsor is someone that you have to hang on to so that you can learn to take direction, so that later in your life you ask for direction. You practice on your sponsor. And what does your sponsor get out of it? Well, they get to practice giving it away so that they can make room to receive. I don't know who gets the bigger present. Because ultimately, everybody is going to sponsor somebody, even if they don't want to call it that. You know, in the old days, we used to just walk up to the table where the literature was, and if there was somebody shaking there, you took them on. The old days, they walked down the stairs, fell in the door, whoever was standing there took them on. Unless you were a real nut yourself. In such case, you know, you got like somebody to help you take them on. You know, the old-timers just couldn't be bothered. They just assign you a newcomer, pick them up, drop them off, and you think, this is really horrible stuff. But what are you learning to do? Get out of yourself. Practicing. You're practicing not being self-centered, self-obsessed, and in complete control. And when you're in Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what they take away first. The control. If you listen to somebody talk for a long period of time and they don't mention the steps in God, there's a really giant hint that there's a control issue here. The more you talk about God and the steps, the more you're willing to let go of your own control and go there. It is not an easy journey, but it's the thing that I'm the most powerless over. And I don't want to. You need some sort of control. You got to get up in the morning. You got to show up on time. You got to order breakfast. You got to pay your bills. I mean, there's so everything in moderation. And that's the other great thing I'm finding out lately about Alcoholics Anonymous and the steps in the book and how to use things in moderation. You know, I actually used to believe for years in AA it was like up here or down here, right or wrong, black or white, good or bad, nice person, bad person, you know, creep, not creep, boring, not boring. I mean, yes, no. Not anymore. I have everything inside of me. I have everyone inside of me. God, I remember years ago when, I don't know, Charlie Manson killed all those people, and they would say, you know, you have Jesus Christ and Charlie Manson inside of you. I used to get hostile when I used to hear that. I used to really get hostile when people would bring it up in a meeting, you know, in Los Angeles, in the depths of the West Side, where we're talking about our emotions and our feelings, and I would think, what is that about? Ugh. And then, you know, Hitler inside of you. Sorry. There are days when I have wanted to kill. There are days when I could have wiped out the planet. I just don't act on it. There are days when I could be Mother Teresa. There are days when I would never want to be Mother Teresa. I've had enough thoughts go through my head. I've done enough good and bad things to really get over the judgment issue. If it weren't for the steps of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I wouldn't even know all this stuff was happening to me. I wouldn't even know it was all happening to me. When my sister died, and I went to try to, save her, I knew she was dead when I saw her body. And when I saw her body, I knew she was not there. Thank you very much, Jane. Thanks. Oh, it's hot. Oh, good. That's great. How do you become an ex-Scotch drinker that likes hot water? I mean, you don't believe in miracles? You're looking at one, okay? I haven't been on the bathroom floor passed out in 34 and a half years. It's pretty big. Anyway, I found my sister, and I could see her body. It was warm, yet she had just passed. And I knew she wasn't there. My head was screaming. I might even have been screaming. I'm not sure. But I knew she wasn't there. I knew she wasn't there. I knew her body was there. I still tried to rescue that body and do all the things you have to do. And then Jane came and, she tried to rescue that body and gave her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But she had been dead, and I knew that. But in my mind, I was screaming, please don't go. Come back. Come back. Please don't go. It doesn't have to be this way. Please, God, don't go. Please, Cynthia, don't go. Screaming. I don't know if you noticed that last year I had much curlier hair. It was such a shock it straightened some of my hair. At least it didn't fall out, okay? I wouldn't have come. Not that healthy. Where is it? The laughter, the humor is coming back, so I know I'm healing. Now, I was able to, and I couldn't get that picture out of my mind, So when you find people in that condition, you don't know what you're going to find, and you're stuck with this picture. And it changes, of course, the minute you move somebody, it changes. It's no longer, and they become peaceful. And you get to see all those things, and then you realize, oh my God, she's free. Not tortured, she's free. And then, as time goes on, you love somebody enough that you wouldn't bring them back from where they are now. And then so much stuff happened, I didn't have much time to grieve. But I had an opportunity to talk to Dodie on the way up on the plane. And it was such an extraordinary thing that I didn't realize that I had changed until I fit myself. And in talking to Jane in the last month or so, I have felt different about me. But I didn't have words for it. And the finality of death, well, it's as big as when you just join Alcoholics Anonymous, and everything is. But the finality of death, it really puts it in perspective. And I'm not talking about, oh, we're all going to die. Yes, there's one thing we're all going to do in common. We're going to die. You want to live in fear of it? Then, go ahead and waste every breathing moment you have. But what happens with death is the person is invisible. They're gone. It's not like you can change your mind and go visit or call on the phone. And that was the primal scream that was inside of me that morning. That scream in my mind, please come back. Don't go. When I was here last year, Maggie had lost her mother. The year before that, Jane had, people, and I get it now. I get it, that what you're really, they're invisible. And I was obsessed with this invisible. The glasses are sitting there that the person wore. They're just like gone. And the body means nothing. That was the horror for me, is that I was helping this body, trying to revive this body, bring it back, find a pulse, all the things you think you're going to do, which is fine. But I knew from my years of being alive that she was gone. I knew she was gone because there was nobody in the body. And I could tell, she's not here. These are hands and face and skin and stuff, but there's nobody home. And that was the pain. That was the begging. Please come back. Please come back to what I understand and I can identify. Please come back. She's invisible. She was invisible. But the presence in the room was tangible. And it wasn't until afterwards, you know, when a series of events occurred where the family had an opportunity to have the rosary and then, you know, all the Catholic things and all that. And she was there for a while, and you could feel it. And then as things began to happen, and I realized the amount of responsibility that I had to assume, and the sorrow that was inside of me, and all of these things began to be revealed in the rapid way that they are in events like this, because you never, ever are ready. You're never ready to take care of it. I began to talk to this invisible person. Now, I believe in that. I come from a country in Ireland where it's natural to believe in it. I come from that heritage. But it took me years to find my own level of belief. And when you have that shock, you don't have any belief. So I got back an experience to match my knowledge. And I started to ask her for her help. And I could feel it. And my sister was a larger than life kind of person, and you know, so I wear her watch. and as the years go on and I get older and more myself, more inside of myself, it becomes simpler. Life gets much simpler for me. And I'm just simpler, really. I mean, if I have extravagant things, it's probably because they're there, or they're convenient, or they're easier, or better zipper. I don't know. But, you know, it's not because I need to impress you or because it's any outside value at all. Especially when you go through these kind of things. There's no value to the outside. You know, you really get it. You get it that what's left is the shell of a person, and what she took with her is her spiritual memory, her life memory, the energy of who she is, and that's what's gone, and that's what's inside of me. And therein lies the communication. I, inside of me, have that person, that energy, that identity, that spirit, that spiritual thing. God just got here. I feel much better now. We're on a roll. Okay, good. I was getting worried. I was beginning to get maudlin. I think, oh. When I die, I'm going to leave this body behind, but I am not going to leave the spirit of who I am behind. It is going to be inside of me. It is there now, and the invisible sister that I have now, I have an invisible Lila inside of me. She had an invisible Cynthia inside of her, and when I found that body, that invisible Cynthia had left that body. And that's what I got. That's what I knew, and that's what I experienced, and that's why I flipped right out and screamed in my mind, please come back, please come back, please come back. I wasn't talking to the body, I was talking to the spirit. Come back in here, where I can recognize you and you're familiar and it's understandable to me, where I got this understanding. I don't have an understanding of how to do you out there. And then as the time has gone on, I have realized, oh my God, I am talking to the invisible her, and I've been talking to her, and it's from the invisible me. And the day that I die, somebody's going to find me. And I will be there looking at them. And I will be there, the spirit of me. And that's when I'm getting it. Is there anything more important in life than knowing that I can talk to the spirit, this invisible you, from the invisible me? Oh God, it makes the tangible you so not meaningful to me anymore. Seriously. Oh, it helps if you're decent to look at and nice, okay, whatever. And I'm with the most beautiful woman in the world and all of that, and that's great. But truly, 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 does it matter? The moments that we're going to share, the moments that we have in Alcoholics Anonymous, those great moments that you never forget, do they have anything to do with the outsides of us, each other, or even our words? No. It's when my spirit can touch your spirit, the invisible you and the invisible me match up, and we're communicating. We go, oh my God, that was great. Yeah, because we were in the way. Because I took my control freaky little self and set myself aside. Because I wasn't worried about what you were thinking or even what I was thinking. We were just communicating, soul to soul. How does a person like me, that came into this world so terrified, that I had to drink so much to not have this feeling, that I had to live this long in Alcoholics Anonymous and make so many mistakes to get to this point where I'm willing to say, oh, that is peace. The invisible me is where all of my peace resides. I want more peace, which means I'm going to have to make room for it. I'm going to have to receive it, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to represent that to you so that you are safer with the invisible me, and your invisible you will say, she is a safe person, we can talk. And my invisible me will say, this is a safe person, you can talk. And then because I live on the planet, in the real physical me, emotional me, I have to have the steps and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the fellowship. There's a big difference between the program and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous in order to do the rest of it. The rest of it is, sometimes I don't have enough wisdom to know the difference between whether you're a good person or not a good person. Sometimes I don't have the wisdom to know the difference between whether I'm doing it by myself or I'm doing it with God. And therein lies my dilemma. When I'm doing it with God, God is invisible, God of my understanding. So when I'm invisible and I'm in touch with all there is, my all there is invisible. It's energy, it's all that stuff, but it's invisible. I couldn't describe. If I described God, I'd like run into the ocean with fear that I had limited myself one more time. So I have this fourth dimension kind of God that they talk about, spirit of the universe out there, undescribable God, invisible. I'm part of that. And then I think of all these religious, and I've had such an attitude about religion over the years, but I'm getting it. They say things like made in the image and likeness of God. Okay. Invisible, invisible. Got it. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Huge for me. Not to know it, to feel it. Not to know it, to feel it. If I drop dead tomorrow, I've had a feeling that is so huge, I'm not afraid to die. I don't want to die. Don't think about that. I don't want to, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid because there'll be an invisible Cynthia, and an invisible Aiden, and an invisible Kay, my uncles, my grandmother, God knows. And are they not all there? And be careful what you talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been talking about this stuff for years. Getting comfort from it. Taking her crap for having to speak about it, but this is who I am. I'm not 34 and a half years sober to come up here and talk about whatever you want to hear. I'm up here to tell you, this is who I am. Maybe you won't be like that when you're sober as long as me are, I don't know. But this is who I am. My pride in my recovery is that I can be honest. The humility in my recovery, which I'm not afraid to talk about. If you talk about it, you don't have it. Who said that? Where is it written? How are you going to understand it if you don't talk about it? The humility for me is I could change my mind tomorrow. Tell you a whole other thing. And that'll who I'll be tomorrow. But I sure won't be controlling what I say. I won't be saying what's necessary to say. I'll be changing and moving and learning and flowing and going and doing and crying and being happy and up and down and all the things. Somebody said recently, oh my God, all that pain for all those people, how could it must feel terrible. I said, no, it probably feels exactly like pain when you have it. There's only so much space for pain. That's as much as it can feel. We're all going to feel the same pain. If we lost 10,000 people or one person, pain is pain. Joy is joy. Do you have more than me? I doubt it. Can you have more pain? No. Can you have more joy? No. Can I have more than you? Sober 30,000 years? No. If we all went, joy this moment, we'd all feel exactly the same. 1 day sober, 50 years sober. Same. Trick is, we're going to receive it. And then you go through life receiving only the good stuff. Total denial about the rest. Woof, 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 woof. Guy's beating me up, I'm killing my kids, I'm a nut, I'm a thief, I'm stealing, I'm overeating, I'm undereating, I'm whatever I'm doing to myself, but I'm trying. I got 2 therapists, 5 sponsors, I go to 5,200 meetings, and I'm working the program. And I got a gallon of ice cream in the trunk, and when is this over? I got so many secrets I could burst. But I look good. And I'm fine, by the way, I'm fine. Feeling fine. Really fine. And I got a promotion and I got a new job. And I'm getting a new car. And, as soon as my kids are grown up, I'm going to Tahiti. They were just born, but I'm going. And then I'm going to be happy, see? And I'm preparing for that. And I'm saving every cent I've got. I'm working on it right now. And tomorrow, and the next day, and the next year, and then one day they find you, and your spirit's up there, and they're saying, wow, she's gone. Look at these. Isn't it funny when people die? They just leave their glasses there. And you're screaming, Jesus, these are expensive glasses. I bought these glasses for when I was going to be on that trip, so you don't know how much money I have. Some little other invisible thing is saying, not quite made that transition yet, but we're getting there. And does anybody remember the glasses you wore? They remember how much you laughed. They remember the stories. And eventually, they'd forget the bad things. Here's the good news. I'm beginning to forget the things she drove me nuts. I'm forgetting all that. I'm just remembering the laughing. I remember the kindness. I remember my little sister. You see people as little when you've spent your life with them. You see the sacrifices that they made for you or you made for them. That's what you're left with. My sister wore a watch. I'm telling you, she had a lot of jewelry. She was like big, like Annie Mae personified. I wear less jewelry as the years go on. And she used to kid with me about, we loved watches in common. You know, everybody, all sisters have a kind of a thing. You know, ours was shoes and watches. I got a ton of watches. We argue about these watches. I mean, one day she said to me with one of my watches, I'll buy that watch from you. I said, she wanted the watch. I wanted to say, why don't you steal it from me? I mean, you've done this before. Of course, she's my sister. I said, I'm not going to say, no, absolutely not. So she like ups the price and ups the price because she was like totally into money, you know, up and up and up and up and up. I'm thinking, Jesus, I could buy 5 of those watches. Absolutely not. And when my sister died, of course, there was this, watch. And I needed to be close to her. So I started to wear the watch. And then I needed to make decisions that were unbelievable. Then I had to fly to different places in the country and meet with all these lawyers and attorneys and blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm used to that. But I'm not used to that now. I'm not used to that with my heart broken. I'm wearing the watch. And I'm used to going and dressing in a very conservative way and very powerful looking and all those kind of things, and I know how to do that. But here I got this watch on. And I can't take the watch off because it connects me to my sister. And it's taken me this long to just wear the watch. Oh, I still cover it up. Because it's not me. But you know what? It's her. And now I like wearing the watch because I can see the face without having to put my glasses on. And now I don't give a crap what people think about the watch. Less and less and less. Want to see the watch? I've turned it upside down because it's too big to wear the other way. It's huge. This is my sister. Gold and diamonds, and I could put a down payment on a house in Santa Monica with this bloody watch. I mean, the first time I watched, I was like, do you know what it takes for somebody like me to wear this watch? It's the opposite of who I have become. I don't know if that means anything to you. It means everything to me. I walked in here today with this thing, which I never walk, because it's easier to carry the books. Because I thought, why should I hide stuff I have? To make people feel better or uncomfortable. It's about me. It's about me. It's about my level of comfort. It means nothing. What means something is, will I help you if you're in trouble? If you're going to stay sober for the rest of your life, which is really what it's about, a day at a time, then you're going to have people die on you. And you're going to have to receive the sadness. And you're going to have to deal with all your character defects and your fears. And then you're going to have happiness, and you're going to have happiness beyond your greatest imagination, and you're going to have to deal with the excitement of that so you don't sabotage yourself. And if you haven't found the steps to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, then you will deny yourself the peace that that journey affords you. Oh, you may get there anyway. And I don't know how you're going to do it, because I didn't do it that way. I did it that way for half of my sobriety. I can assure you for the other half, I'm taking the easier, softer way. And the easier, softer way is the steps of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I needed to tell you about life. And I needed to tell you about my life. And I needed to tell you that I'm in love with life. I needed to tell you that I want to take every breath and live it. And I want to tell you that I loved sharing with Maggie about her mother's passing when I was here the last time. And the miracle experience that I had with Jane when her mother passed away. This is what's going to happen. But when they go, there is so many more. Now there's a fullness for me in what's out there. I don't intend to ever drink again because I'm going to maintain my spiritual condition. I'm going to maintain my spiritual condition because I go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous because I talk to the same people. I'm going to maintain my spiritual condition because I have rituals that I follow, rituals that I don't break. I put the cap back on that toothpaste every bloody morning of my life since I got sober because somebody told me you're supposed to do that because that's what sober people do. One time I forgot to do it. It was like a madness until I got back to the hotel and and I was sober a ton of years, and I'm turning like limos around in New York City. Turn that car around, turn it around now. But it's a one-way street. It's a one-way street. I said, I don't care. Don't you understand? The cap is off the toothpaste. And all these people are looking at me like, we work for this business? Oh, my God. Run back up to that room. Shh. Oh, my God. Okay, fine. Would I have gotten drunk? Oh, I doubt it. I don't know. But I would have broken the little ritual. I would have stopped my flow. That was my communication. That's about as much as I could do at that time with the cap thing. That was enough. Then they made me get up at the right time. You know, when people say to you, maybe you wouldn't be as depressed and upset if you, had some consistency in your life. Oh, boy. Well, what do you want? What do you mean? Well, I'd like you to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time every day. Does that include Saturdays and Sundays, really? There's always a qualifier, isn't there, from alcoholics? We're so quick. Yes, it includes Saturday and Sunday. And you start doing that, and then before you know it, you're getting up, you're going to bed. Eat at the same time every day. Did you ever eat at the same time every day, or get up at the same time, or go to bed at the same time, or put the cap back on your toothpaste when you drank? Well, there you go. Now we got to do all these things. Phenomenal. If you do all those things, the day will come a little while later when somebody's going to say, I need you to do these steps. I need you to commit to doing the steps, practicing them in all of your affairs. All of your affairs. Practicing them. Well, how am I supposed to do that? Well, you have to read the material consistently, from the beginning to the end. You have to be willing, as in my case, to devote one day a month to to sitting with a couple of other people. And why are they valuable? Because they're going to have such insight? Hell no. Because they're going to read the stuff, so you're going to read the stuff to compete. Because if I didn't have to go up there and read that stuff and know that they were reading it, I wouldn't read it. I would watch Sopranos. I don't know what I would do, but I wouldn't be reading it. It would be like, oh, Sunday I got to this, and then I'm going to, and I'll get to it. So at the end of the year, because of the other women, because of the practice of that ritual of studying and practicing, studying with them, the knowledge I experience and practice the steps in my daily life, because I go, having read the book at the end of a year, I read the big book in the 12 and 12. If it's repetitive over and over and over and over and over and over again with me, which is why we are sober, because we hear the same thing over and over, we go to the same meetings over and over, we sit in the same chairs, we make the coffee, it's like, and pretty soon we're like, get it. And then it becomes an experience, and oh wow, and how do you stay sober? Because you're in the experience of doing all this, and if you pull yourself out of it, something goes like that, and that's God saying, get back. But if you don't have the ritual, if you don't have the practice, if it doesn't become an experience, you float out there, you don't even know you're gone. That's why it's a disease of the mind. But don't kid yourself in Alcoholics Anonymous. First we trick your body. First we get you to rely on things. First we get you to rely on the lousy coffee and making it. Then we make you make the cookies, and then you have a commitment. And then pretty soon you're like putting out literature. And before you know it, you're kind of like involved. And then we emotionally trap you by saying you got to talk to somebody all the time, and then you kind of like become dependent on that person. And then we spiritually get you. And by that time, you're ready for the experience. Don't wait as long as I did. I did my way, their way, the way. Well, in Alcoholics Anonymous, we all do it the same way. Oh, God forbid. That would happen. The lemmings would go all over the cliff. What are happening, those people on the Oregon cliffs? All those AA members are doing it the same way. Oh my God, they just all went at the same time. You do it the same way as everybody else, the common solution, until you can do precisely what it says in the big book, never mind the 12 and 12, where it's personal to you. And therein begins your journey, where you have had enough experience on Alcoholics Anonymous, where your mind realizes you are absolutely capable of having a relationship with yourself and a better relationship with your God. And if it wasn't for all the practice and the training and the doing and the sponsors and the sponsees and the firing and the hiring and the sleeping and the non-sleeping and the judgment, if you didn't play in the sandbox of Alcoholics Anonymous, you wouldn't know you're a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you wouldn't feel like you're in AA, and then you wouldn't be ready for this. That gives you permission to do anything you want, as long as you don't drink. Continue to go to meetings, talk to somebody, and for God's sake, start reading the book in the 12 and 12, so that it becomes repetitive to you, so that you start wanting, so that you start wishing, and so that you start dreaming. And that's what happens to people like me. You start to wish, you start to want, you start to dream, and then you want more. And then the great, great voice inside of every alcoholic, I want, I want, I want, I want more. When you were drinking, was it ever enough? Was it ever enough? You know what? Sober, it should be the same demand. You should demand the same of yourself. If you wanted to drink scotch, you'd go to any length. If there was a scotch party, or in my case, or tequila, whatever your choice of drink is, on a certain day at a certain time, trust me, you'd be there. Especially if it was free. And especially if you could have as much as you wanted. That is what practicing the steps of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous with a few other people and your sponsors, however you want to do it, I don't care. But you need the consistent practice, is about. It's free, you can have as much as you want, and the desire will create the desire, will create the desire. You'll start to feel a little bit better, and God forbid you should actually receive gratitude in your life, because then you're going to get excited about even being alive, and you're going to think, wow, this is not bad. And then you're going to want more peace. And then ultimately, if you're like me, you'll realize that's all there is. You'll realize that the day they die, they have ultimate peace. And you'll love them enough not to bring them back. But you'll want that for yourself. Now, in order to entice people into the steps, having had no thought about this except looking in the room and waiting and talking until I realized, I'm just going to let the energy and Newport, Oregon, take its own life in its own place. I think what I'm going to do is just glance at a couple of things in the big book. The stuff that you look at all the time. And you don't even have to look at your big books. You can listen to this tape later, and you can judge me severely for talking too quickly. And how am I supposed to ever do that? But, you know. And I want to just point out a few things in the big book that meant something to me, that led me to want to be interested in the 12 and 12, that led me to want to have this journey into the steps, that led me to want to have a relationship with my God of my very own understanding that was personal to me. That is what the steps are about. A relationship with yourself and your God that is personal to you. Don't be frightened of the word personal. So right away, right after the table of contents, it says that this is a text. A text is something to be studied, to be discussed, this big book. It also says that we are people that had a hopeless state of mind and body, and this book was written to show precisely how we had recovered. And as you well know, 18 years later, the steps were written to show precisely how we live a recovered life. And it says, we think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. And it says, we wish to be helpful. Helpful. And that's all I ever want to do, is be helpful. Because you know what? You have all been helpful to me. Helpful. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want it to be my way. I don't really want to find out what your way is. I just want to be helpful. I just want to share my experience. And it says, however, and now we're in the foreword, Roman numeral 16. We haven't even gotten to the numbers yet in the book, pages. And it says that we have to have the necessity of a belief in and a dependence upon God. This is before we really even get into the big book in a big way. I'm just skipping around. And then it says that we have to understand alcoholism and its hopelessness. And then they were talking about the number of members they had at that time who had substantial sobriety. It had to be no more than 2 years. 2 years. So people with 2 years had inside of them enough spiritual assistance, help, and grace to write this book that has in the last 60-something years been of such meaning to so many people to this day. They were divinely inspired. Why? They opened themselves up, they received. Their willingness was so big. So people say, oh, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. You're ready the day you get sober. We're all come in at different points and different colors and we all have different, I live with a woman that's sober less than I am. You're going to hear her speak tonight. My God, there's areas where she is absolutely mountains ahead of where I am in knowledge and in wisdom and in experience. It's a balance. I have friends in my life, I have some stuff, they have some stuff. It's a balance. It's all in moderation. There's like a big, broad seesaw here. You know, they say if calamity and serenity match, that's the best day you're ever going to have. And if you manufacture your own misery and that calamity goes like that, the serenity goes like that, whoa. And therein lies, what do? Well, if you're practicing the steps in your life, you know exactly, in 12 easy little moments, how to get that thing right back to here. And if you think for 1 minute you can become a spiritual giant in Alcoholics Anonymous and practice these things to the point where you could go like that, well, you know what? You're out of balance then too, and you're going to bore the hell out of everybody. And that is life. And if someday you run into people and they're like being complete assholes, well, you know, the next day they're going to be okay. Substantial sobriety. The most important thing in the foreword and in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to me is it says we have discovered the principles by which the individual alcoholic can live, which are the steps. So we had to evolve principles by which the AA groups and AA as a whole could survive, which are the traditions and the concepts. It was thought that no alcoholic, man or woman, could be excluded from our society. That is my belief in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care if you're tall, short, brown, pink, purple, people eater. Doesn't matter what it is, you're welcome in Alcoholics Anonymous. You're welcome in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous if you're sober, and you're welcome if you're drunk. If you have a desire to stop drinking, that is the only requirement for Alcoholics Anonymous, a desire to stop drinking. It doesn't mean you have to. It just means you have the desire. I don't believe there are rules. No one should be excluded. It's, to me, the most fearful thing in Alcoholics Anonymous as we grow and grow and grow, and gurus and all this kind of bullshit. I mean, nobody should be excluded whatsoever from Alcoholics Anonymous for any reason. What do we share? Common problem, alcoholism, common solution, spiritual solution. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization, nor does AA take any particular medical point of view. Okay, I'm over myself now with all that. What that means, I don't care what you do. Just make sure you're doing it with a doctor and a doctor and a doctor. I wouldn't take one doctor's advice in Alcoholics Anonymous. My life depended on it. I would go to another one and another one. And then I would talk to my sponsor and to my good friends in Alcoholics Anonymous, and then I would make whatever decision was necessary for my medical well-being. And I wouldn't be discussing it with anyone else in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I don't need their reaction. And my reaction is negative to people who don't do that. So I'm not a good person to talk to about this. It says the 12 steps that summarize the program may be, well, they're talking about in the foreword to the third edition how they've written them in different languages, and it said they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members. It's exactly the same. And then it becomes personal to you after the big book. That's why a lot of people don't want to do the 12 and 12. By the time you're ready for the 12 and 12, you're ready to personalize your program in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's huge. And then the doctor's opinion. Well, you really need to read that. It's a fantastic chapter. I mean, it describes the problem. What is the problem? We're hopeless. That's the problem. And then it gives you a solution, and it tells you that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. Just in case you think he's just about drinking, really. And that we were in full flight from reality. Could that be possible? Could that be possible? And that our bodies were sickened as well as our mind. I mean, over and over. Listen to the repetitiveness of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what works with drunks like us. Over and over, same stuff, different words. And of course that we had the allergy. And then they give you the solution. Powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Could that have anything to do with an invisible world? Could that have anything to do with something out there that's invisible? Could it possibly? Maybe. And then it says that we have to practice things. We have to put the ideas which he put into practical application. Could that be the steps, really? Probably. And this is a guy that wasn't a member of Alcoholics Anonymous talking to us. It says these allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form whatsoever, a la 3 doctors, sponsor, AA, and your God. Step 2. The message must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to restore their lives. We haven't even gotten out of the Roman numerals in the big book yet. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the truth from the false. How many of you are 20 years sober and still can't do that? I'm 34 years sober, and that balance is always out of whack for me. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Believe me, when I am completely run wild, self-will run riot, I think you're wrong, I'm right, my life is normal, and you're screwed up. So I no longer read this book as someone that is a drunk who has just recovered. I read this book with someone with all my years of sobriety still doing this stuff. And I think if you've got any kind of time under your belt at all, that's what you should be doing. You should be finding yourself and personalizing yourself in the big book and in the 12 and 12 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Find yourself, personalize yourself, because unless you're like absolutely saint-like, and I haven't met one yet, then, you are still restless, irritable, and discontent. Unless you can again experience a sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Well, you can't do that. So what do you have to do? A few steps, a few phone calls, a few meetings, the serenity prayer, a little of this, a little of that. That's what we do here. That's how we treat the disease that's still inside of us that comes in layers and peels off. This is repeated over and over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope for his recovery. Now, it's a good thing we flash through this book as newcomers, isn't it? Because if we read that, we go, oh my God, this is too much for me. But we don't see that until we're ready to see it. You don't hear it until you're ready to hear it. I don't get it. That when I talk to people, I can say anything I want. You're going to hear what you're going to hear anyway. And you're going to hear it when you're supposed to hear it. It's got nothing to do with me. Because my little invisible self is supposed to just go out there and expound on my little invisible self. And then if your little invisible self is supposed to hear it, it'll go, tune in here, you're supposed to hear that. Or it'll give you a whole bunch of other words, and you'll come up later and say, oh, I really liked what you said when you said blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, I never even said that. And I've had that happen so many times, I get it. Do you really think, you know? So, and you know what it is? It's humbling for me. It's like, oh, whoa, puts it in perspective. And we haven't gotten to the, you know, we haven't even gotten out of the Roman numerals yet. And we're in the part where the guy is not even a member of AA. He's another human being who's observed us and gets it. He says, one feels that something more than a human power is needed to produce this essential psychic change. And then they go on to tell you all the different things that you can read about by yourself. Now, in Bill's story, you know, it describes the problem, and it describes his solution, and it's his story. And, you know, I hate to say it because, you know, people, but you're going to create your own story in Alcoholics Anonymous. We all can't be in the book, okay? I mean, they're only going to pick so many. But don't think that at the end of the journey, before you pop out and become your little invisible self, or are fully integrate with your invisible self, because I believe that's what happens when you die. I believe you fully integrate with your invisible self, and you get out of there. You know, they have some caucus like AA meeting or spiritual meeting or an invisible meeting in the sky, and they say, okay, this one's ready to go. Let's integrate that person. You're out. You go to sleep, and you're gone. You're up there, and you go, what the hell happened? We had a talk about you, and now we want you to join us because whatever. Well, where was I for all that? Well, your invisible self was there, but you were too tuned out, being busy with your Louis Vuitton and your big watches, and you didn't even realize it. Here we are. Oh, my God. And there's your sister down there reading these cards. Oh, they only put the, you know, God only picks the flowers in the garden. Or somebody sent me, you know, they send you all these cards, right? I got beautiful cards from you. No, I'm not being, but, you know, one of them was not from here, but from somewhere. God only picks the most pretty, whatever, flowers for the garden. I thought, not necessarily so. I know weeds that have died, believe me. You know, they died. Woof. Do you think Hitler was a big blooming, you know, daisy or something? No, gone. Hate to tell you, I even believe that whole thing's forgiven the minute you pop out. You're stuck with yourself. And you have to have another psychic change. How about having that when you realize the ripple effect of the spiritual harm you've done while you're on the planet? Whoa. Rather clean it up while I'm here with the steps. Easier, really. It says, liquor ceased to be a luxury on page 5. It became a necessity. Let me tell you, if you're lucky in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're really lucky, spirituality will cease to become a luxury, and it'll become a necessity. Your search for God will cease to become a luxury. It'll become a necessity. The seeker that you were the day you were born, all those little drunk-seeking things you did, all the little sober-seeking things you did. I mean, look at all these people. I could raise, if you guys, I took the time to raise hands right now. Half of you have been to Tibet, you're blowing out candles, you're doing runes, you're into like animals, you're blah, blah, blah. You're doing a million things. The seekers in Alcoholics Anonymous are over the top. You're here. You listen to a person you don't even know, for God's sake. You're here. We're seekers. The day will come when it won't be a luxury to be a seeker. It'll be a necessity. You'll demand your peace. It won't be enough. You'll look around and you'll say, there's not enough peace with these people and that people. And you know what? You'll have a psychic change. And you'll start praying about it. And you won't even have to do anything. You just start praying and praying and praying. And pretty soon, a whole thing will be cast into effect. And your whole life will change. And you'll think, how the hell did I end up here with this person doing this? Well, I'll remind you. Some other buddy will remind. Somebody will. They'll say, I remember when you talked to me about that and you started to pray because you were lonely. You were in your relationship and you were lonely. You started to pray because you couldn't take the pressure anymore. You started to pray because whoever this image is that you had started to hurt you. I remember when you said that. Oh, I remembered when you prayed for that. Careful of these relationships in Alcoholics Anonymous. They'll come back to torture you, really. They'll make everything your very own responsibility. And then you realize how desperately you need to personalize and make the steps your own because you're the only one that can correct any of those things. Do you think anybody can pray for you? Of course not. They can pray for you. They didn't drink for you, and they're not going to stay sober for you. You are the keeper of your own soul. You're the keeper of your sobriety. The remorse, well, they talk about impending calamity. they talk about the personal obsession. No words can tell of the page 8. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in the bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched all around me in all directions, and I met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. I have been made powerless by lots of things in my sobriety that were far more insidious than alcohol to me. I've been made powerless by people, places, and things repeatedly in my sobriety, and that feeling has overtaken me. And as a result of reading it from a sober person who's experienced it, I'm not afraid of it. And it says, the dark is before the dawn. I was soon to be catapulted into, and don't forget, if you really, really become a student of the big book and the 12, and I don't mean study it, I mean live it, you're going to find out they give you a problem, they give you a solution, they give you a promise. Problem, solution, promise, problem, solution, promise. It's all over the place. I mean, the guy was so predictable. Problem, solution, promise, just different words, same stuff, problem, solution, promise. And that's life. I got a problem, I got a solution. Oh, I'm happy and grateful. Promise, big problem. This year I got a big problem, a big solution. Oh, I'm so happy. Next year, new problem, new solution, new gratitude. I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Does that not happen to each and every one of you? Really? Has to. You're not shaken and don't have a hangover, maybe. I don't know now. And then you're going to believe in a spirit of the universe who needs neither time nor limitation. That is so important to me at this time in my life, to understand that time is irrelevant. That sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Just let somebody help you, Lila. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Step 1, got it. Unmanageable, powerless over something. Got it. Courage to change the things I can. Step 2, I believe in a power that can restore me to sanity and balance, that can help me with that. Okay, I understand that. And the wisdom to know the difference. Forget it all the time. The wisdom to know the difference between what? Okay, the stuff I can change and the stuff I can't change. Got it? No, not for me anymore. Doesn't even work. The wisdom to know when I'm doing it by myself and when I'm doing it with my God. That's what I need to know the difference between, because when I'm doing it by myself, you can bet I'm powerless and controlling. I'm going to create an unmanageable situation, and I might even use AA and the power to get it back, but if I don't go to that third step and make that decision to turn my will and my life over and do this with my God, then I'm not going to have any wisdom whatsoever. And wisdom only comes with me from the experience of doing that and not from the knowledge. And that's where it comes from me, the problem, the solution, and the promise. The promise is the wisdom. If I can say, make the decision, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Time, for me, should be nothing more. It is not necessarily the case, but 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I limit the amount of these things that I do, but when I talk, let me tell you, I know that I am praying. I know that I am praying, and if I say it is not necessarily so with me, I can assure you somebody up there is going, oh, I'm needed. She just said it's not necessarily so. She doesn't understand the time thing. Let's get down there and help her out. And I'll get a bunch of things that will happen that will help me out. And I don't even realize I'm praying for it. So be careful when you're sharing a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care if you don't have a lot of speaker meetings up here. 3 of you are sitting in the room and you're going, blah, 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 blah. There's a whole bunch of invisible things going, somebody needs me. Whoa. And I think these invisible things are full-on 12-step people ready to roll. You know, having had a spiritual awakening, couldn't be better than death. As a result of these steps, done them, I'm gone. Carry this message. They're ready. They're grateful. They're popping. They're bursting. They're saying, come on, come on. We're supposed to be of ultimate service. This is all we do now. Can't even get in my own way. I got nothing to do but be of ultimate service. Oh, there she is, right down there. Who's praying? Oh, Gretchen's just praying for something. Okay, let's go. You're in trouble. Trust me. I was listening to a guy Tuesday night at the meeting that was talking to Cubby, the same guy that said, don't pray to God from God. Tom. And Tom was saying, oh, so much is going on. He said, and I prayed for strength. And Cubby said to him, oh my God. It's the best laugh I had since my sister died. I mean, I'm listening to Tom talk, and he prayed for strength, and Cubby saying, oh my God, and I get it. Oh boy, you're going to get it. They don't necessarily care what form it comes in. They're not down here suffering like that. They want strength. Let's get her to the point where she's so grateful she'll realize, oh my God, I got the strength. I've had a psychic change. I feel so much strength. Your whole life's changed. Your car's gone. Your kids are gone. Your dog's gone. You're like living in a whole other place, and you're walking down the beach. You're going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm this new person. What happened? Some little person's going to say, oh, you know, I was in a meeting, and I think you prayed for strength. And that's why I want to talk to you as just one person to another today. Do you know what I mean? About the realities. It's like I can't even go through this stuff with the, workshop format anymore. It's just not enough for me. So I'm praying. You're here. Sorry. You're participating. Hate to tell you. If you don't want to do it, get up and run out of the room, because any thought that's in your mind, I'm sorry, you're in an environment where all these invisible things that you know, I know, we all now know, whoever they are, now you may not believe in any of this, such case fine, you're protected from all this crap. And when we all get where we're going, you can say, see, I was right and you were wrong. But don't worry, we might get to say, we were right and you were wrong. So who knows? In the meantime, my feeling is, the spiritual universe, God of my understanding, all there is, there to help. They promise that in every religion known to man. We're here to help you. Well, you showed up this morning. You showed up at a step workshop with me. Either you're just foolish and unaware, never been to a convention before, but if you've heard my stuff before, you're a participant. So we're praying together. Careful what you think. But my friend sat before me. This was Ebby, Bill's sponsor. And he made the point-blank declaration that God had done for him what he could not do for himself. His human will had failed. He was on different footing, and his roots grasped a new soil. And while I didn't like the idea, I'm Bill, I could go for such conceptions as creative, intelligent, universal mind, or spirit of nature. That's why I just think when people say, I don't get the God thing, well, how could you not? There's so many bloody choices here, really. Thus, I was convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want him enough. If Alcoholics Anonymous was for people who needed it, we wouldn't be able to fit in the rooms. It's for people who want it, and that's why you stay, because you want it. You have to want it more than anything else in the entire wide world. It has to be number one. It has to come first. If you stay sober for a while, and that comes first, and you practice putting that first, then you'll be able to put God first soon enough. It's just a matter of practice. There I humbly offered myself to God as I then understood God, to do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under God's care and direction. How can you do that? If you haven't had practice with a sponsor telling you what to do half the time, you wouldn't be ready for God to tell you what to do. It's practice. It's like practice. It's like, weeding the garden before you plant the flowers. So all of it makes sense after a while, in my mind. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, that without God I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to make my newfound friend. Take them away. Root and branch, I had not a drink. Friend. You don't want a God? Fine. Find a friend. God's your friend. Make a friend. Dodie and I were talking about our little niece who had a playmate, an invisible one. Listen to your children. They got this concept down pat. They're out there having tea with invisible people. They have names and everything. My little niece had Anastasia. Where in an Irish Catholic family do you get Anastasia? Got to be made up invisible person. Dodie's little niece had this little invisible person she's chatting away with, and they go to the Grand Canyon, and her little niece says, oh my gosh, Aunt Dodie, she just, my grandmother actually, she just went off the cliff. Well, invisible people get to do that. We do not. And don't think in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you really embrace these steps and be consistent about it and practice this in your life, you won't be restored to the child in you, the child that you came in as, the small innocent that you were, the innocent that became afraid because they got so disappointed and so abandoned, and whatever happened to you happened to you. But I hate to say this to you now. I hate to say this to you because you haven't had your experience. But at this point in my sobriety, I could care less about the problem. I'm a survivor. I've survived the whole bloody goddamn thing. I've survived them, it, and me. I'm the worst. I have survived. It's about the solution now. It's all about the solution. Oh, I could care less about the problem. Okay, I'll spend a few minutes on what the problem is. The problem is me. Okay, we're done. Now, what is the solution? And I can tell you the solution is always the same. The solution is always spiritual. The solution is always the steps. What am I powerless over? God only knows what did I create for myself in my own mind. Now, where do I have practice with that? From the very beginning, for 34 years. Disease of the mind, disease of the mind, disease of the mind. Okay, got it. Somewhere in there, I had like some little weird thing that I perceived that I blame you for, by the way, and I'm in there. And until I can get you out of the picture, I can't personalize it, and bing. I was to test my new thinking by the new God consciousness within. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as God would have me. Then only might I expect to receive. We're on page 13, and they're talking about the one word women cannot hear, let alone comprehend. Receive is the word. Receive. For yourself. Take inside as yours. Don't necessarily have to share it with anybody. God will decide when you need to share something. You have to decide to take it inside. To use the steps in order to communicate with God, to make yourself available, to clear out whatever's there so that you can receive. Huge as women. Here I am, a saint, giving myself up. You got about 52,000 invisible little forms, including your grandmother's probably up there going, oh, Jesus, she's doing it again. Will this cycle ever be broken? When is this going to stop? And then one day you're going to get it. Christ, I'm not any good to anybody if my spiritual condition is not fit, if I'm not fit. Oh boy, getting it. And gently in your sleep that night, they'll surround the bed and they'll say, all right, whew, keep listening to us. Keep listening. Keep the channel clear. Did you ever think you'd hear anything like this just because you got sober? I mean, really. I didn't even ask if there's any newcomers in the room or people in the room. I don't want to know. I don't want to influence me. I don't want to feel obligated to have to, do the AA talk today. I just want to talk to women today, irrelevant of their sobriety. Anyway, it says, a new relationship with my Creator, that I would have the elements of a new way of living which answered all my problems. There's another word that people don't get in AA. All. All. It doesn't say except that one and that one. It says all. Belief in the power of God plus enough willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things were the essential requirements. Oh, how I hate to tell you that the new order of things are nothing more than ritual and discipline, but try not to let that upset you. And it says, I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. If there was no more ever written in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, isn't that enough of a bite to take you for your whole life? And that's on page 14. We've just gotten to page 14. Anyway. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive. The joy of living we really have, even under pressure and difficulty, we have it right here and now. And there again is the time thing. There is nothing but right here and now. And when life is too hard for you and they're killing you and troubling you, there's nothing but right here and now. And I need to know for myself that when I don't know what to do in right here and now, and I need to have the wisdom to know the difference, I better stop and do nothing. And if I am the person that I want to be, if I can be the best invisible me, if I can allow my invisible self to reach its highest peak within my body, I will then say, I don't know what to do. Please come to me. The wisdom to know the difference and help me. 1, 2, 3. And there is a solution. They talk about the common solution, and they talk about recovering from the drink problem, but they do not talk about recovering from the living problem. And they talk about knowing the facts about yourself. Oh, we have all kinds of facts about our drunkenness now, don't we? How many facts do you have about who you are now? Facts, I mean. Not what you imagine now, because don't forget, 80% of what you think, you imagine it. It's not even real. The real answer, anyway, I don't want to take too much time. We feel that elimination of, this is page 19, we feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies in, before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. kind of puts the truth out there, doesn't it? That really life is about your home, your occupation, and your affair. What else is there? When we're here, we're the best we are at these conventions. We come here to be inspired and to be the best. Are you the best you are in your own home? In your own job? In the restaurant? Did you smile at the waitress who's killing herself to do whatever? And then they talk about the real alcoholic. And it says, therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and the humiliation of even a week or a month ago. Spiritual memory is what you gain when you practice the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous in your life. Spiritual memory. You're gaining a spiritual memory every single time you walk into the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous from the day you first get sober. It's a spiritual memory. Your spiritual memory is like a muscle inside of you. It's just invisible. And you exercise this muscle, and you exercise this muscle, and you exercise this muscle. So that if you're really lucky, it'll spring you right back. What's the matter? Okay. So you exercise the spiritual memory, and the spiritual memory, and the spiritual memory. And if you happen to relapse, then I'm glad you're back. And if you relapse 1,000 times, I'll be glad 1,000 times for you, because this is where you belong. And you can come back as many times as you want to. And never let anybody think they can exclude you from Alcoholics Anonymous. All you need is that desire. But don't kid yourself. It wasn't because of him, her, it. It was because you have a spiritual deficiency. We haven't even gotten past page 25. And look what we've been talking about here. If you're uncomfortable in this room, it's because you're uncomfortable with the reality that you can't do it without God, of your understanding, and that this is a spiritual program. If you're comfortable, you're probably not going to drink again for the rest of your life, because you'll know what to do a day at a time to enlarge and maintain your spiritual condition. If you have a spiritual deficiency, it will start in your mind. It'll tell you that you don't need to be here. It'll tell you to stop going to meetings. Oh God, you'll be lucky in that dark valley when you're out there by yourself. It'll tell you you don't need these people. It'll tell you it's easier to have a cigarette outside than come into the meeting. It'll tell you there's nothing in here you need to hear. It'll tell you you're tired, you've been sitting for too long, what the hell's this about? 3 hours, what the hell are they doing? I thought the same thing, frankly. I was just tagging along. I'm not even the speaker. I'm just like accompanying the speaker. It's great for me. I don't have to do anything. I can wear jeans. I can like hang out. Do a workshop for you? Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'm going to be there anyway. 45 minutes, who the hell cares? I could breathe in and out in 45 minutes. Wouldn't even matter to me. Blink, I'm Irish. I can do that. 3 hours, Jesus Christ. And then again, before 25. And I'm telling you this so that you can get it, that this is what it's about. Because maybe you will get it and maybe you won't. But maybe you'll be sitting out in your car having that cigarette thinking, I'm so sick of these people. But in the back of your mind, they say that if you talk to a person who's drinking about AA, if they get any exposure to AA, it all ruins their drinking. If you expose people to spirituality and Alcoholics Anonymous and they're members of Alcoholics, it ruins them. It ruins their ability to blame anybody, including AA. They think, oh my God, that horrible person, who does she think she is anyway? Lay this simple kit of spiritual tools at my feet. I don't want them, but they're there. She talked about, we found much of heaven and we rocketed. We were rocketed. This is the one that gets you when you're like out there in the car having a cigarette thinking, arrogant bitch from California. What the hell is he talking about anyway? And, the last time I looked, there was no, invisible people in the Bible. I mean, what does she think of Jesus Christ anyway? Probably an atheist or something. No, I think the guy was really good. Great press. Good. Just like Muhammad and all the other things. Just like the little animal totems that the Indians have. I mean, everybody's got their own seeking possibilities. If yours is Jesus Christ, hey, I have no issue with that. I don't care if it's a doorknob. As long as you remember in the back of your mind that if you work these steps and go through this, you're going to be rocketed into the 4th dimension. You could be sitting in your car having a cigarette, criticizing me, but you're not going to get that out of your mind. This nut said, not on her own, by the way, he's not making any of this up, it says right here, we have been rocketed into the 4th dimension of existence of which we never dreamed. I want you to hear that, because I want you to be tortured by not having it. And this is page 25. We're not even rolling yet. We haven't even gotten to the steps. You understand we haven't gotten to the steps in the big book yet? We just got to, like, the prep. This is the prep. The great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had a deep and effective spiritual experience, and then they have a little thing where you go read about what that means, which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. The central fact of our life, this is a fact, of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our God, our Creator, has entered into our hearts and lives in a way in which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for which we could not do ourselves. Please feel free to get coffee and whatever, because you're going to rush through this and you know, I'll break in a while later on, because, you know, the getting up and the sitting down is just too disturbing. It breaks my flow, and I only want to do it once, frankly, unless it's okay with you, and we'll see. If it's not okay, the building will collapse. We'll all be outside. I got the whole powerless thing down. I understand. Fine, whatever, you know. I now say things and I just like raise my hand like, great, fine, catch it. Do what you want with it. It's just my opinion, you know. Fine. Anyway, it basically says you have to accept spiritual help in order to be sober, and they're staying sober, and they got the way, and they got the thing, and they got a ritual, and it works for them, and more power to them. It wouldn't work for me. I'm lucky that I found this way of life. I'm very, very grateful. However, I could have been the other way and standing up here giving you the other type of talk, you know, and I would have been grateful for that too, so who's to say? Then it talks about 27. We haven't done the steps yet in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm using the big book in case you've never heard this stuff before. Not the 12 and 12 now, the big book. It says that we have these things called vital spiritual experiences. And to me, these are occurrences are phenomena, invisible. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes which were once the guiding forces of lives of these men are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. I mean, if I was newly sober, I'd be horrified if I read this kind of thing. You have to be at a certain level of comfort within yourself to even read this, especially when you know it happens. Each individual, in their personal stories, describes in his own language and from his own point of view the way he establishes his relationship with God. And that is the chapter, There Is to a Solution, and that is somewhat how it ends. So it's about your journey from here on in. More about alcoholism. They tell you the problem is control. They tell you the solution is that you're never going to regain it. No real alcoholic ever recovers control. How about that? More about alcoholism, just in case, you know, you needed to know more than the bathroom floor. And then they tell you about poor Jim, you know. Poor Jim that went out there and forgot Monday, showed up Tuesday at the place and had his little glass of milk and scotch. If you don't know who Jim is, you're not reading the big book enough. And he had failed to enlarge his spiritual life. That's what it said why Jim drank. He failed to enlarge his spiritual life. Didn't go through a whole bunch of other stuff. Didn't matter that he's business and blah, 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 blah. Because the steps in the program, the fellowship and the program combined, which is the steps, will show you how to get through every and all difficulties of your life. But unfortunately, if you don't believe it, you are subjected to not enlarging your spiritual life, not having any belief, and believe me, your brain will go, I'm on my own, help, 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 and it will do what alcoholic minds do. It will find a solution outside of your body, outside of your soul, outside of your invisible self, take care of it. And the poor little jaywalkers in here, God. I mean, I have such identity with the jaywalker. You know, oh my God, in front of the bus, out of the... Wait till it happens to emotionally, you know, up against the wall, hit, bang, bang, bang. How many times can I do this kind of personality? Oh, well, I'll just go try one more time. This time it's going to be fine. I'm just going to find every neurotic in AA and I'm going to date them and marry them. Okay. Did you ever hear the jaywalker? Oh, yes, a great story. You know, the guy kept drinking. I said, it's got nothing to do with drinking when you're sober this long, okay? You're jaywalking anyway. It just doesn't seem like it, but that's exactly what you're doing. So I love to, like, tune into that little guy. Because, you know, at the end, he's racing in front of a fire engine. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Isn't that what we do emotionally till we finally get surrendered to the point where we say, oh, my God. Go from, like, a little thing to a fire engine. For the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely be unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. Self is the key word here. Common knowledge will save you until you are ready for your own personal experience. And then it says on page 42, they outline the spiritual answer and program of action, the steps. Quite as important was the discovery of the spiritual principles would solve all my problems, repeating that just in case. And then they tell you that you don't need to know that. You can figure that out yourself. Yeah. But after a while, we have to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis for life or else. Now, this is so consistent. I mean, we're now at page, whatever it is, 44, and when you take away the falling down drunk stories out of this thing, do you get the drift here? I mean, it's really amazing, isn't it? When you just look at it from a sober person's point of view, from somebody that's a seeker, from somebody that's looking for the spiritual way of life, you know, it's right here. It's right here. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power for which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Obviously, that was where and how we would find this power, and this is exactly what this book is about. It's about finding a power greater than yourself. And then they're going to save the steps later to tell you that that's how you, like, take the E train to that power. Like going to Disneyland. The big book's Disneyland, but the steps are the E train, like up the, it's the big ride, okay? This is just the entry. Boy, that's really stupid, isn't it? Can you imagine? Next thing you know, I'll have God be Mickey Mouse and Minnie be the Blessed Virgin. We can bring them all in there, and the people say, oh, no, now she's not after Jesus Christ. She's into Mickey Mouse and Minnie. What are you going to do? Okay. And you have to comprehend the power which is God, and you have to make your own conception, however inadequate is sufficient. And as soon as you do that and you admit the possible existence, now get these choices, creative intelligence, spirit of the universe, underlying the totality of things, we've begun to possess a new sense of power and direction, provided we take other simple steps. To us, the realm of the spirit is broad and all-inclusive, etc., etc., etc. And then they give you, and this is a secret thing on page 47. I always remember it because my age was 47 when I kind of like got this reality. And it says, you have to ask yourself a short question. Careful now, because it requires a decision. Do I now believe, or am I willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? That's a pretty direct question. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. So to take all the prettiness away, the real thing is, have you made that decision for yourself? You know, other places they say, there is a God. It really does. Watch out for the little stuff in the big book. It's the trick. It's the setup questions. And that's a decision you can make quietly in the silence of your own mind. So it says it's comforting that we can commence on such a simpler level. And they just ask you the biggest question you're ever going to ask yourself in your whole life. And if you're lucky, you'll have events come in your life where you'll ask yourself again, am I ready to now embrace even more understanding with this God? Simple decision. And it says, when, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life, as we see it, there is an all-powerful guiding creative intelligence. And it says, visual proof is the weakest proof. Do I not know that? Did I not understand that in its depth when I looked at the visible body, praying for her to be there, and I knew she wasn't? There was no proof at all because she wasn't there. And yet here was this body, but this person wasn't there. It's amazing. In our personal stories, you will find a wide variation in the way each teller approaches and conceives of the power which is greater than himself. Now, this allows you to have Jesus, Mary, Joseph, all of them, St. Anthony, whatever. Everything and everybody is your God. It gives me no right to have an opinion about your God. It gives you no right to have an opinion about mine. It gives me absolutely demands of me in my spiritual universe that I support your choice of your God. Demands of me. Doesn't demand that of you. My universe is personal to me. Don't misunderstand. I'm a human being. I got all kinds of opinions. But I am not going to fault you for believing in anything you want to believe in. They claim that since they came to believe in a power greater than themselves, to take a certain attitude toward that power and to do simple things, there has been a revolutionary change in their way of living and thinking. In the face of collapse and despair, in the face of total failure of their human resources, they have found a new power, peace, and happiness and sense of direction, and to float into them. And we haven't even gotten to the steps in the big book. It says, and here's a really trick. Be careful now. Leaving aside the drink question, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change came over them, when many hundreds of people are able to say that the consciousness, and now it's millions, that the consciousness of the presence of God is today the most important fact in their life. They present a wonderful reason why one should have faith. So the great fact for you is that you're an alcoholic that needs to stay sober and needs Alcoholics Anonymous and sponsors and the people in it and all the rituals and all of the practice. And then if you're lucky, the great fact for you will that you will make the decision from a couple of pages ago, and the fact will become, the most important fact is that you are a person who will need a God of your own understanding, and the presence of God will become the most important fact of your life. And then they talk about the realm of the spirit versus the realm of the material and the liberation of our thinking. And we had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems, and we have to discard all our old ideas and bring in new ideas. And if you're lucky that after this convention, and this is what conventions and conferences are about, you're going to walk out of here with a bunch of old ideas left in these rooms, left with other people, and you're going to walk out with new ideas, a whole new way, a whole new you could walk out of here. Who's to say that you're not going to go to sleep tonight and say in your own consciousness, wow, I'd like to leave a whole bunch of whoever I thought and what I am behind me. Can I walk? And be careful what you pray for. When we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance on the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did work. And then they're going to ask you to make a couple of more decisions now. And one of the big ones on page 53 is, God either is or God is not. What is your choice to be? And then they say, it's a we program. Sure, it's a we program. We make the coffee, we set up the meetings, we put the chairs out, we make sure somebody's at central office, we talk to each other. But let me tell you something, we ain't doing this together. We're talking with each other about it, but you're doing it. Too scary. Reality for that, I think. If they didn't put we, would have scared us all to death. We'd never have gotten off the ground, really. And then they talk about the spiritual release, where you're above your problems, it says a spiritual liberation from this world. People who rose above their problems. They said, God made these things possible, and we only smiled. We had to see a spiritual release, but like to tell others it wasn't true. You don't think dying is a spiritual release? You don't think knowing that you're going to die is a spiritual release? You don't think being afraid of walking towards your death isn't a spiritual release? Sure as hell is for me. I got it. That's where we're all going. I'm not living in fear of it, but I'm spiritually being released this weekend from making myself so earthbound. All my feet are going to be on the ground because I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and I'm a responsible member of the community and of life and of this world. But I'm going to keep my head directly above those feet in those clouds, talking to anybody that's invisible out there. I just have to make sure. As a woman who used to be Gretchen and I, years and years ago, used to go to this Wednesday night meeting, and a woman that lives in I think she's probably still in Grants Pass, Ruth Kay, used to say, where is your head? If you want to know where your head is, it should be right over your feet. God, that was so simple. I took years to get it. That's why those little groups of meetings where you meet all the time with the same people and you get over it, you get to know each other and you get over the likes and the dislikes, and pretty soon you're talking about things that are so profound because you can talk simply to one another. Actually, we're fooling ourselves, for deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It can be obscured by calamity, by prompt, by worship of other things, but in some form or another it is there. And then they talk about these facts again, as old as man himself. And we finally saw that faith in some kind of God was part of our makeup, just as much as we had a feeling for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but God was there. God was such much a fact as we were. We found the great reality deep within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that God may be found. It was so with us. And then they talk about the broad highway. Incredible stuff. And we haven't even gotten to the steps. And they talk about, being overwhelmed, this man that was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. And then yet in the spiritual experience, in the appendix, when you read it, it's about people more like me, the educational variety, where you fight and fight and fight and struggle and don't understand, and, for people like me who have a lack of faith. And then you talk about being restored. And then it's to how it works. And we're just about to get to the steps. Just about to get to the steps. And it says a terrible thing. It says that you have to be honest with themselves. That if you cannot make this program constitutionally, whatever it says here, you've all read it a million times. And I'm kind of like thinking of something, who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. You think it's about drinking, right? Okay, they're not going to make it. You're here. You're sober. Are you constitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself as a sober person? Are you ready to really be honest with yourself? Are you? It's a decision. Look at all these decisions we have to make. Really. That's why the first, second, and third step are so monumental. They take you to the top of the mountain, and then the rest is just life. And then after the steps, it says we're willing to grow along spiritual lines, and that we have been convinced. And then they go on, and I think you should read those all for yourself tonight. And please pay attention to certain pages. I'm just going to give them to you quickly, because it'll tell you on page 64 that it's a fact-finding and fact-facing proposition. Not a, I imagine, I guess, fact-finding and fact-facing. And you should take as many inventories as you possibly can, over and over and over with people until you get to the facts. And the facts are unemotional. And the facts are about your behavior and not the other person's. And the facts are about your reactions. Those are facts. The fact is, I did this. They talk about the spiritual disease and that we're spiritually sick. They talk about other people being spiritually sick. They talk about thoughts being fancied or real. They talk about, in page 66, they talk about 67, that, that we're selfish, self-seeking, and frightened. They talk about the definition of fear. They talk, I'll just give you the highlights. This is amazing stuff now, because now you're on the train. Because you're on the train. You're on the train to the steps, and you're on the train. The train is out of the station. Don't go this far. Don't even bother. But the train is out of the station. When you're on the fourth step, that train is out of the station. You don't know where the hell it's going. That's the problem with AA. You see, they tell you all these things, but you never know how it's going to the results are not our business. But they're going to tell you that your self-reliance has failed. And they're going to tell you that you have to rely on this God. And then they're going to tell you about that matching thing. And then they're going to tell you, by the way, when you get this God thing, never apologize for it. And then they're going to tell you that God will mold your ideals and help you live up to them. And then they're going to tell you that you've got to start asking. We ask. Don't ever ask. Well, okay, you're not asking for a Mercedes, all right? Because maybe, you'll die in it. Don't ask. But ask for God. Ask for help. We ask that what we should do about a specific matter. We want it. You're going to want these answers. Start wanting. Start wanting, start wanting, start. You deserve to want. You're getting everything you need, but you deserve the wants. And then you let God be the final judge of all these things that are happening in your life. And you have to examine your motives. And you have to stop harming other people. And they're not even there. It'll take years before I got spiritual harm. One of the greatest questions I was ever asked in any workshop, and we're going to have time for questions and answers here because I think it's really important, was in this place last year when I did some little brief workshop for something, and a woman asked about spiritual harm. Now, I don't know what she got out of it, but it changed my life. That answer changed my life. And I thought I had an answer for spiritual harm. And all that answer did, that I was giving her, was open me up more to understanding that the only harm you can really cause is spiritual harm. Huge. How do you spiritually harm someone? Oh, my God. Give them a dirty look. That'll start. And then into action. Now, When you're into action in that chapter, you've just rushed through the steps. We're going to take a break in a minute. We've just rushed through the steps. And get ready, because they trick you the minute you finish that chapter 5, how it works. We read how it works, how it works, how it works, how it works. And we do all those steps. Read it and read it and read it and read it and read it. And we read and we read and we read. And you think, oh, God, if I hear these goddamn things one more time, I'd rather hear somebody else. To talk, she reads too fast, she reads too slow. I'm into the whole thing. I can tune right out. I meditate during chapter 5. I don't know what it is in Oregon, but in California, we can't start a meeting without it. It's like we'd die or somebody would run out of the room screaming or something. So, and all this stuff happens, and they read it, and they read it, and they go through the steps. And nobody talks about steps into action, because what's the first thing they tell you? After we, having made our personal inventory, that we had only thought we had lost our egotism and our fear, that we only thought we had humbled ourselves, that we had not learned enough about humility, fearlessness, and honesty. In the sense we find it necessary until we told someone all of our life story. And so begins the journey of Alcoholics Anonymous, that it is ever-ending. You will be forever telling your story. You will be forever doing the steps. You'll be forever doing these inventories. You will be doing them. It's going to be about you. It's going to be about all of your stuff. And you're going to have to find the right people to talk to. And then it's going to promise you all this kind of stuff, that you're going to feel nearer to your Creator, that you'll have had a spiritual experience, that you'll be on the broad highway walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe, and that you can carefully review what you've done, and you're going to thank God for all of this, and that you're going to, reread everything, and then you're going to rest. Rest. You're going to come to like a little resting place, and you're going to take some time. I missed the whole rest thing for 20 years. I was so busy. Be careful when you're on the spiritual quest. You're going to rush through it so fast, you're going to not get it at all. You have to do it all over again. Because all the way along it says rest. Take a breath. And I didn't get that what they meant was, if you're doing it by yourself, you're never going to rest. But if you're doing it with the spiritual universe as your guide, of course you're going to rest. Because they have no time. There is no time there. I'm in a hurry. Why? Because I'm going to die. I guess. I don't know. Gotta do it right away. Fast. Oh, I'm telling you. From the death of my sister and the understanding, the psychic change that's upon me is changing my entire perception of being alive and time in the world. It's changing everything. I don't even know how to describe it to you because I don't know what's happening yet. I just know that whatever I believed before about time and life is gone. It's an old idea, doesn't work, and I don't have a new one yet. Don't have it. Don't have a clue. I just know something's different. I just know the pace at which I functioned doesn't fit me. I just know the way that I react, it doesn't seem the same. I just know the way that I look at people today is different than a week ago. I just know that what I spiritually believed 2.5 months ago is completely different. I just know some of the fears I had then are gone, and I don't have as many as I had before. I know less, and yet I feel like I know more. Totally in the process of a psychic change. In a miracle. Don't want to forget, want to be part of it. If you don't think that you're always in a miracle, well, you're not getting the drift. You were saved for this reason. That's why you're here. But there'll be times when you really are aware, I am in a miracle. Oh, what magnificence comes from that. You gave yourself this weekend. You left them at home. The dogs, the kids, the husbands, the cats, the lovers, the friends. You left whatever. The job. Hopefully the thoughts. You left it at home. You're giving yourself a gift. Receive the miracle of it. How do people from a bathroom floor end up in a place like this, giving themselves a present of a weekend? Where all they're going to do is listen and want something for themselves. Actually say, I want this for myself. This is for me. Maybe walk on the beach, maybe not walk on the beach, who cares? Sometimes people, been through it myself, you work so hard, you do so much, hell, it's just good to sit in a hotel room and stare out a window. It's a treat in itself. says, we feel a man is unthinking when he says sobriety is enough. The spiritual life is not a theory, we have to live it. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. And as God's people, we stand on our feet, we don't crawl before anyone. And then I knew that I was going to be rushing, so I put little marks over the top of the pages, and somebody came along between the time I had breakfast and now and erased them. Because I can't find those little marks, which is a really good thing for you. Because I just skipped through the wives and the family afterwards. Don't forget, now the family afterwards is about first things first, let live, and easy does it. So the slogans are in there. And I don't know where those little marks are, and aren't you, oh boy, aren't you lucky, because I bet that coffee, tea, and everything else is looking really good to you. I can't even find the little marks under A Vision for You, and I'm one of those mark the books up people. Well, so I'll read you my favorite thing, and then let's have a cup of coffee, and if we can make it really fast, because I just want to like flash through the steps and get back here and then have a little, chat with you. They had seen miracles, and one of them was to come to them. They had visioned the great reality, their all-loving and powerful Creator. And that's what I wish for you. I wish for you the great reality deep within. And that's where the steps have taken me. They have taken me from my head to my heart to the great reality deep within me. I walk that journey with such regularity and such consistency. It's the path of my life. It's the path into myself. And now I'm ready for it. And I will tell you in the briefest way possible, in less than 15 minutes, if you could do 10 minutes and then be back for 5 minutes to sit down and make all the noise necessary, then we'll start right away and we'll just flash right through the steps. Because I am hoping that after the introduction of the big book, the steps should be very, very easy to understand. Thank you. Okay, we're back. All right, my name is Lila, and I'm an alcoholic still. And even with this gigantic watch, I'm like off schedule here. The minute hand is so big, it looked like a real blame, 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 blame. I know this is the 12 and 12 thing, but I purposely turned it over this morning, as I told you. And I now understand why, that sometimes it's more important. I mean, if you have an opportunity to continue to work the steps, I'll briefly review them with you. I want to do it very quickly because I want question and answer. I think that's really important. And if you don't have a desire to work the steps in a consistent manner and to get into that thing, then, what's the point of me going over all that? You're only going to have to hear it again sometime later on, whenever you're ready. So I felt this morning that the most important thing was to take the actual big book and give you a desire to want to work those steps. I mean, I can't, for myself, when I read the big book in the manner in which I did this morning, which is pretty much how I read it, looking for the solution and looking for the promises, because that is how I'm living my life now, my current life. I'm living my life from the point of view of what's right about my life, what's right about the people in it, what's the solution to my life. And I go looking in the big book for the solution and for the promises, and I find them. And when I do that, then I realize now that the big book has given me the solution and the promises, which is to enlarge my spiritual life and have a conscious contact with my God of my understanding. Then I have to do the steps in order to have that happen for me. So the big book is the key to the door, and the path to my serenity and my peace are the steps. If you choose, and it's strictly up to you, Kate and Gretchen and Mandy and the gang here, ran off some of the sheets that were made up years ago that we use in our step practice at home in Los Angeles. And what that is nothing more than the year divided into 12. And the chapters in the big book lined up in a way that's manageable in a meeting. And what it'll do, actually, is simply tell you, and you can pick it up at the end of the meeting on the way out, or now, whenever you want, but at the end of the meeting, and it'll tell you that the opinion and the doctor's story is the problem, and then step 2, 3, and 4, the solution, and then how to live in the sober world, the rest of it, and how to have a conscious contact with your God. And that's really what will happen. And at the end of the year, if you do that, you'd be hard-pressed not to have a more of a personal understanding and a practice of the steps, but more than anything, you're going to find out the invisible people. You're going to have a relationship with the invisible people, the invisible spirit of the people in front of you. And as the years go by in our group, and we shed away the knowledge of who we are on the outside, and we start to address and identify, as long-term friends do, with who they are on the inside, then, that's the real blessing. Then you get the feeling that you're never alone, and isn't that what alcoholics ultimately are terrified of? If you do nothing else in your life but read the table of contents in the 12 and 12, you'll survive. If you're having trouble in your business or your relationship, read the traditions and you'll survive. And if you have the opportunity, read the concepts of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it'll assist your business, and it will survive. On the forward, turn the page, there we are, and it says, AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. When you are sober for longer than a short period of time, then you automatically know that that obsession to drink could be obsession to do a whole bunch of other things. And that is what the steps will be. It says that many people, non-alcoholics even, report that as a result of the practice of AA's 12 steps, they have been able to meet other difficulties in life. They think that the 12 steps can mean more than sobriety for problem drinkers. They see in them a way to happy and effective living for many, alcoholic or not. So I don't personally understand how you can live in a household and not have the 12 steps be your guide, frankly. And if I had children, which I do not, so it's easy to say this, I would talk openly about the process of the steps so that when I wasn't there and my kids were in trouble, man, they'd have something to fall back on. And it doesn't really mean anything. They're still going to have their own destiny, and they're still going to live, and they're still going to die, and they're still going to change, and they're not going to change. I mean, I have a brother out there right now, and, they're going to do what they're going to do. The results are purely up to God. When you have an experience with grief, you realize that the results are purely up to God. In God's time, the spiritual universe time, everything is about, I just think we get here and we try to control the results, and we try to control time, and we try to control each other. And that's like the difficulty of being on this planet. No wonder they have gravity to keep us compacted together. Otherwise, flip right out and try to control. And then I think the closer we become to the peace inside of us, and the more we integrate the invisible self with our material present self, then I think the lighter we get, and the less time becomes important, and when you think about it, really think about it. If you'd made the wish list of all time, would you have wished for yourself the gradual peace that you're getting inside now? I would have left it off. I would have put down the condo on the beach, and the cars, and the money, and all that stuff. But I would have left off peace of mind, good friends, contentment, lack of fear, get rid of the fear of losing what I have, not getting what I want, giving up control, and not worrying about results, and not being pressured by time. That would have been the list today. Sure wasn't the list years ago. None of those things, I don't think, were on it. I might have put peace because I was so spiritual, But I didn't understand it. In its alcoholism, the book was called Alcoholics Anonymous, and from the fellowship it took its name. This is the foreword. It is, in it, alcoholism was described from the alcoholic's point of view. The spiritual ideals of the society were codified for the first time in the 12 steps, and the application of these steps to the alcoholic's dilemma was made clear. What do you think the alcoholic's dilemma is? The alcoholic's dilemma, who's on AA, is how to live so they don't have to drink again. How to not drink, how to stop drinking. Why? So you can live and not drink again. The drunk's dilemma is how to get the next drink. It is hoped that this volume will afford all who read it a close-up view of the principles and forces which have made Alcoholics Anonymous what it is. I can't tell you how many years went by before I saw the word forces. I used to think it meant people and things. I don't think that anymore. I think there was divine intervention all over the place. I know a guy, Jack, I'm trying to keep it anonymous, McNallis. He's sober, older than dirt now. But he was sober for, God, longer than me. And he's in the Westwood Theater in Westwood, California, and Star Wars came out those many years ago. And he's always had a trouble with the God thing. Great AA member, but you know, what the hell, always had a trouble with the God thing. He's sitting by himself in an afternoon, that's another story, in the movies, watching Star Wars, and they come out with the Force be with you. The guy breaks down and gets it. It's a great story. Was he any less spiritual than all the other giants? He was still a seeker. But when he got it, he got it. He was afraid to talk about it for all that time. Because, I don't know. Sitting there crying, bing, bing. It's like Cubby and me, talking about God and the steps. Sit in the meeting, he says, I don't pray to God, I pray from God. Bingo. Niagara Falls out of my eyes, in front of God and everybody. Okay, step 1, and I'm going to do this so fast because it's of no value to you for me to go into great detail on the steps unless you have a desire to take them. Unless you have a desire to make a commitment to get together with a little 2 or 3 of you every now and then and commit to a year of doing this. And if you read fast, read slow. And if you want to meet 4 times a month, read once. Because you won't be able to absorb it and practice it in a week. Because for 2 weeks, you'll forget you're even doing it. And then for a week, you'll think, what the hell was I supposed to do anyway? I better call somebody and ask them what they're doing. And then the last week, 3 days or whatever, you'll rush through and practice. And then you'll come in and forget what happened and talk about it. And then next year you'll be a little bit better. And then, many years will go by and you'll find out that you don't have to do anything. The steps are pushing you. You'll find out that you're powerless as mad in the month of January just because you're tuned into it. Does it mean that you don't work all the other steps in January? Of course not. It just means that in January you're more aware of what the word powerless means. And maybe the next year it's unmanageable. And you think, I'm unmanageable. And why do you even care? Because a couple of years later, when you get unmanageable, you recognize it instantly. Not 2 weeks later when you've killed people, right away, because you practice being unmanageable. And then in February, you're running around going, I got to have power. Oh my God, I need this power. Okay, power. And by the 3rd week, you're not as insane as you would have been, Because you think, okay, I'm on 2, this is the month. And the 3rd week, you got to make a decision. Why is it that we make decisions all the time? Control freaks, result-oriented people that we are. But we can't make a decision about God. Forget that decision. Turn my will and my life over. Do you know what? There's nothing else. Why did you say turn it all over? That means just you, whole 100%. Because we would flip. Because it takes you forever to find out that your will in your life there is nothing else. They're going to take your life anyway. And what goes off there is the spiritual will that you had when you were down here. And now it's just directed in a whole different way. Amazing. And in the third month in our group, our first years we practiced, we would pretend that we were the AA reporter. Now, reporters, by, well, whatever definition, ethic, are supposed to not be biased or prejudiced or anything. So, that means take yourself out of it, really. Just report the facts about what you think. By the time you get to the fourth month, you'll be desperate to take an inventory when you listen to what you think for 30 days. You won't believe how you'll need to clean yourself out. It'll just be overwhelming to you. And you make a couple of years go by and you're making a decision. I got to make a decision now. I got to make the decision now. I'm powerless. I need power. Make the decision. I'm powerless. And you practice that enough. God, one day you'll be walking down the street a couple of years after you've done this for a while and you go, whoa, what was that? Something just did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I actually made a decision before a crisis. Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. April. There's 1,000 ways of taking inventories. I mean, the most fun one is where you just take the inventory where you're the only one on it. Really. Isn't that where we're going anyway? Just there. And what's the big deal? The big deal is fear. The root of it all is fear. Now, if you didn't have fear, you wouldn't have resentments and all that other crap that you have to take inventories on. And you don't do any of this until you've been sober a few years and you've worked with your sponsor and you've done all the stuff they want you to do. Whatever way they want you to do it. Doesn't even matter, because this is about being personal. So the first time you practice like powerlessness and unmanageability and then power, and boy, wait till you get to the year where you decide to practice being insane. And you're going through the month thinking, oh my God, she's right. I am insane most of the time. I didn't even know it. Because you don't know it until you practice it. And then you can't do it all in one month. So the third month you run around, you make the decision, and you're like reporting what you think to yourself, and you come into the group and you think, oh my God, I can't believe how many times I didn't turn it over. Jeez, God. And the fourth month you take the inventory on fear. And there's a way to do that, and you look at your fears, and you look at whether they're real or they're imagined. You just write them all in a column. Now, alcoholics, especially sober members of AA, complicate breathing. This is like one column with all the fears. Write them all in a row. When you finish with all the fears, do not go back to the day you were born. If it's not on your mind, it isn't on your mind. It'll come up the next time. Don't worry. Don't go digging for stuff so that you can ignore the really big problems. What's there is there. But just so you can be thorough, as it says in the book, go into these little files in your mind, the place where you have the most problems. And you look and you say, is there anything in the sex file that I kind of like left out? There's always something there. Is there anything in the social file? That's people that I kind of like that you interact with, kids, family, that I left out. Is there anything in the security file? And now don't complicate it, okay? You've already done it 1,000 times in the book. Don't complicate it. Security means money. Sex means people you're sleeping with or would like to sleep with. And social means people you're not sleeping with. Includes pets, dogs, kids, anything that's just like social. And that's really it. And you go through those little files and you list those fears. Then you make another column, like a big T thing. And you put real on one side and imagined on the other. And that'll really be fun. First year, they're all real. And it doesn't matter that you know the answer, because we love to play games. We love these challenges, alcoholics like us. We're seekers. So it doesn't matter that you know that the real answer is that 99.9% of them are imagined. And you go take a look back and say, well, okay, it's really. How do you know if it's really real or imagined? Well, if it hasn't happened, okay, it ain't real. First of all, it's a hint. If you think they're going to slap you across the face, it's imagined. Now, if they came up and hit you, okay, that's real. And you just do the best you can, because there's no right or wrong. There's no rules. There's no results. There's no grade. This is yours. Don't torture yourself. Do not manufacture your own misery as you take an inventory. Go to the next column. True or false? What, real or imagined? What the hell's the next column there now? Worry or judgment. How do you know if it's a worry, or how do you know if it's a judgment? If it's already happened in the past, it's a judgment. If it hasn't happened, it's in the future, it's a worry. Why do you care? Because you spent all of your time with imagined fears, either judging or worrying, and you're not present. And your goal is to be present in front of your invisible self with your God, in front of other people's invisible selves with their God, which is where that light comes through. So you just say worry or judgment, worry or judgment. Now, it's nothing more than you taking a little, kind of like a little inventory, exactly, of yourself. And then you look at, if it's, you go to ones where they were real, and you say, when I have this real fear, what does it cause me to do? I like to use the 7 deadly sins. They're in the book. They're easy. They kind of like fit. You know, lust, greed, sloth, blah, 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 blah. I once thought I could never be slothful. You know, like I'm hyperactive. I'm like a worker. Okay, remember the seesaw? It's about balance. If sloth is there, but they fill up the whole world and the whole Bible and the whole book and the whole thing with all these descriptions to satisfy us. So if you're not slothful and you're a hyperactive, workaholic, crazy person, it's the same thing, just the other end of the scale. So, you know, don't knock yourself out. Just say, am I out of balance in that area? And you're either like completely slothful, can't get out of bed, depressed, about to like medicate yourself and kill yourself, or you're like on the moon running the world. In there is, you know, where you're supposed to be. If you're not in there, pick one. We all know about the other ones. Gluttony. I don't overeat. Look at me. I'm in perfect shape. I run 700 miles a day. I'm eating only non-fat Atkins products or whatever. The latest thing. I'm like perfect. You're a perfect nut. You know, and every now and then I purge just because, you know. But the overeating thing is not me. Okay, fine. Let's just take that little scale and balance it right back out and mark gluttony anyway, because we just don't have the time for another word. Okay, that should be as simple as that little group, right? And I also add self-seeking, self-centered, or self-seeking. It's been so long since I've done this now. You really should listen to my other tapes. I'm really thorough there. But what is it? Selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, and inconsiderate. Because, you know, basically, those are the ones that are mostly operative. And they're less complicated than the 7 deadly sins. And wherever there's a real, I write down what I do. I just write the word. And when if the fear has more than 3 words to it, it's a statement, a paragraph, a confession, a whole other thing. 1 or 2 little words are enough. This is not a big, complicated 60-page thing. This is all about you. And then I know what my fears are, whether they're real or imagined, whether I live in worry or judgment all of the time and not in the present, how I react, which are my character defects, and then I can meet with somebody and I can say, this is what my story is. If you're meeting with that person, they're going to say to you, where's the part of the inventory that's the good stuff? Oh, what are you talking about? Don't do those kind. Okay, well, that's the most important kind. Because this is a book of problems, solutions, and promises. So then you look, and maybe you could take a walk on the beach with a friend, and you examine your family history for this inventory, and you say to the person, I'm going to tell you the story like a reporter of my family. Oh, they came from Ireland, and they were a farmer, whatever. And you're going to find, and you know, the mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, paternal, maternal, and you just break them all up, and you say, this is the family that I came from, and this is the story. And when you finish telling the other person the story, they're going to go, wow, it's amazing how hardworking and heroic and the humor and the whatever these people had. And you put the good and the bad of them. And when you circle the bad, you'll find out that's who you are. And when you circle all the qualities of the good, you'll find out that's who you are. Well, there you are. No question, you probably got their hardworking, good humor, whatever traits they have. And you write down all these good things about yourself. And most of you are going to find out that you're very compassionate, kind people. Now, if you're running around thinking you're Mother Teresa, just don't forget the seesaw now. And you talk to somebody on Alcoholics Anonymous and you look at all that, and then you're at step 6. Oh boy, watch out for step 6. Watch out. Be careful now. Because you have to accept all that. And you know, at first you're going to find out it's easy to accept all that bad stuff. We're used to beating ourselves up, flogging ourselves with our defects. Why don't you flog yourself with the good stuff? And then hopefully that person will talk to you about what you can accept that's got good balance. So you're powerless, and you're going to get the power back in 2, and you're going to make a decision to activate it in 3, and you're going to take this inventory about yourself in 4, just yourself, in 4, and then you're going to talk to somebody in 5 about what you found out about this. And then you're going to accept that this is how it is. And then you're going to turn around, and you're going to ask for help. In 7, and in 8 and 9, you're going to look around, and you're going to see on your path of life, where do you lack compassion? Where do you need to make some changes? Who are the people in your life? Who are the red lights? The red lights are people you go, oh my God, that's a red light. Stop, get away, don't go near them. They exist. Who are the caution lights? This person's a caution. Sometimes they're moody, sometimes they're not. Depends on me. And then there's the green lights. Hey, they're the ones you can like be there with and count on. Now, I'm not going to tell you, but a few years later, you're going to find out you determine the colors by your perception. But that's for like down the road. In the meantime, it's just good to know. Who do I need to clean up? Is it time? And you start saying, oh my God, I got to clean up my side of the street. What's on my side of the street? I'm allowing this person on that side. You know, it's impossible. It's a whole like workshop onto itself. And then you get to 10. And 10 is really great. 10 is about where you have forgotten you've done 1 through 9. 10 is when you wake up and go, oh my God, I got to start again. Now, if you're starting again on the same problem, you got to go back to 4 and do it the old-fashioned way, because you left something big out. But, you know, 10 is like catch yourself in the day. They call it the walk-around step. You know, you're walking around and you just found out you're the biggest asshole on the planet. Oh. And you got to go back and find out what little thing made you powerless that morning. Who didn't look at you the right way or said something wrong, or who threatened you so that the fear kicked in that you were going to lose what you have or not get what you wanted. I mean, when did all that happen? You can say, oh God, restore me to some sort of balance, please. I'm going to turn my will and my life over because I don't know what to do, and you're going to pray like mad. Now 3, you turn it over, and 4, 5, 6, and the rest of them, you keep it turned over. We take it back with tremendous regularity. Now 10 is before 11, because in 10, you either took it back or you didn't. Now if you didn't take it back, proceed to 11 in the game of life. If you took it back, go back to 1. Go to jail. Back to 1. Start again. You're going to know by what's going on whether you're pouncing to 11. 11 keeps it there. Conscious contact with your God of your understanding. And believe me, when you have powerless and your life has been unmanageable and you get this power back and you're restored to that kind of balance and you're making the decision to turn it over and keep it there and you're looking at what's wrong with you and you're happy to relieve yourself of that and you're looking at what's right with you and somebody's saying that's good about you and they can validate you to you validate yourself, and then you accept the good and the bad of it and you're saying, okay, help me now. Help me to be this person and take away the good stuff and leave the bad, whatever. And then you're at 8 and 9, you're saying, I got to keep my side of the street clean, and how they act does not matter. What the results are does not matter. It's about me. It's about what do I do to participate in this life. Have I allowed if there's a shadow that I cast, believe me, I cast that shadow. The light in me, this invisible light in me, the invisible person in me is there. It's glowing out. Am I keeping that clean? That's the path you're cleaning. That's the thing you don't want a shadow on. That's what you're using the steps to clear away. And here you are, this light shoots through, and you're going to be more compassionate, and you're going to want to have more balance with people. You're going to be a 10, and you're going to say, okay, I'm all right here. Now, can we stay this way? How do you stay that way? Conscious contact. Okay, God, what do I have to do? What do? I write God right in the middle of the day in the restaurant, any given time that if something bothers me. Dear Great Spirit, it is whatever date it is, and I write questions. What do I do about this? Should I do this? How do I do this? Oh my God, I don't seem to be able to let that go. Can you help me? Da-da-da. Be careful with these questions. They will always be answered, each and every one of them. And then you will realize, oh my God, all those questions are being answered. And guess what? 12 kicks in, because you're having a spiritual awakening as a result of what? Getting the answers. Recognizing that the miracle is working. Realizing that you activated it. You started the train out of the station. You went along the way. You're choo-chooing along, and God's saying, now we're going to take this train somewhere. And you're there, and you're thinking, oh my God, somebody's directing me. I have strength not ordinarily my own. This intuition inside of me is actually working. Oh my God, it's correct. What are we going to do about this? It's a result of the steps. It says right there, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. What they leave out is that I took all by myself as a result of desperation and surrender. But that's okay. Don't want to scare you. Because I forgot that I was a decent person and good person, and I manufactured all this misery, and I was desperate. And now I'm okay again because I'm back. And having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, you carried this message. What message? What's the message of the steps? That I took them. That they work. That they're creating all the stuff that we just reviewed in the big book. That the revolutionary change, that the psychic change, the synthetic knowledge, all of this stuff is happening that we just read about in the big book. All the promises of the big book, the solutions in the big book are manifesting themselves in my life as a result of my taking the steps. Consistently, over and over and over again, me making the way. The steps are nothing more like a vacuum cleaner. A broom, you're sweeping it away. What's the step? Step 1, step 2. Now the really high spiritual one, step 3, oh my God, turning it over. Unless you go to 11, it ain't going to stay there. Forget it. The generator is going to run out and you're screwed. The only way to keep 3 active, go to 11 right away and start talking to God. So I got there. Let's keep it active. Now you got to understand the spiritual universe, they're active all the time. I would imagine if I were up there praying to myself, I would say, oh, God, she really thinks we turn this thing on off like electricity here. Here's Lila again. Need help, turn on. I'm back. Never went anywhere, Lila. Light's been coming through you the whole time. Welcome back. Oh, my God, I'm back. 11. Thank you, I'm so happy. And how do you keep this light on? How do you keep the switch on? 12, third part. You're so excited to believe that it works. You get it. Oh my God, I get it. It really works. I can't believe it. You run out and you tell somebody else. Guess what happened to me? Oh, Jesus. And then my sister died. And then this thing happened. And then Donnie and I, and oh my God, and and you talk. And you give it away, and you give it away. And maybe you're talking that day to somebody that needed to hear what you had to say. Or maybe you're talking that day because you needed to hear what you had to say. Who cares? Because if you're really working the steps to the best of your ability, you're powerless over the results of absolutely everything you think. And to think that you have control over those results is going to make you absolutely painfully powerless and unmanageable. So I'm in a constant state of coming to believe over and over, and now I know that I have a power inside of me that is always going to maintain my sanity, the balance. I won't be perfect. I won't be imperfect. I won't be completely turned over all the time, but I won't be taking it back. I'll just be in balance. I'll settle for balance. I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to take those inventories. I love taking those inventories. I'm going to take like 1 million types of inventories. You can take inventories on all the regrets. You don't think I wrote an inventory on the way home from one of those trips? For 3 hours on the plane, I cried my heart out because I regretted so many things that I had not said or done with my sister because I was so busy trying to run her life. I didn't need people saying to me, oh, you did the best you could. You did a... Of course I know that. I have little cells inside of me that wishes I hadn't. That I'd taken 5 seconds to have a cup of tea with her, for Christ's sake. That's what I need to get out of me. Am I torturing myself? No. Am I in pain for the little tiny little shoelaces that I didn't bother to notice? Do I regret that in order to get her to change, I would say, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and this? And I walked out? I wish I hadn't walked out. Okay, I'm not torturing myself. I just need to get rid of it. That's all. I need to clean it all up. Take care of it. Clean myself out. Move on. She loves me. The spiritual universe loves me. My God loves me. And guess what happens when you work the steps? You'll find out a shocker. You love you. And when you realize that the invisible self inside of you is as whole as my dead sister and all the other sisters and all the mothers and all the fathers and all the friends that have died, when you realize that you already are 100% connected up to this energy, to this great universe, to the spiritual universe, to this light inside of you, and that our problem is we're in the way. And that the steps of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous are for people like us who need more, who need to get out of the way and feel that light. I am an alcoholic from a bathroom floor. I need light. I need peace. I need to believe everything I believe in. I need to cry away my regrets. And that was the if-only inventory and the regret inventory and this inventory and that inventory. And you do an inventory of anything that bothers you. There's no rules. It's about cleaning yourself out. And just know that every one of your little cells wants to be free. You don't think my body wants to live the happiest life it can before I dump it? Because that's what's going to happen. It turns around some days and says to me, wow, you know, you got nice blue eyes. That's kind of cool, don't you think? Go look at yourself in the mirror. You'll like yourself better. There's somebody in there. And you know when you're really going to need the steps? When you're going to want that person to talk back to you and agree with you. Yes, we're okay. The more united we are, the better. I am an alcoholic in search of God. That was what Carl Jung said about alcoholics. They're people in search of God. I'll be in search of God for the rest of my natural-born life. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about it. That's all I need to say about the steps. You go on your journey and you tell me what you found out about those steps. If you want to use that program thing, go right ahead and do it. If you don't, it doesn't make any difference. Do them any way you want to. But don't deny yourself that those steps in the order that they are written are going to change your life. Don't do them if you don't want to change. But if you want more, if you want peace, if you want lack of loneliness, if you want to be something different, don't walk out here and say, oh, that was a great conference, you know, and just like flew in the sky. Go home and start reading a little bit every week in the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous. You will be astounded. If you're under 5 years of sobriety, read the big book, make sure you do the steps with your sponsor and all of that. If you're over 5 years of sobriety, get that 12 and 12 and change your life. Thank you. Now we're going to have Q&A. And I promise that I will repeat the questions clearly for you. Yes. Somebody back there had a question?
Well, I had a question. Is another definition for invisible self, spirit, or soul?
Okay, the question is the definition, is it possible that the definition for spiritual self could be invisible self? Invisible? Invisible self could be spirit or soul. Did I say indivisible?
No.
Oh my God, there went 3 hours of nothing. Take it. Good. I wonder what that means. But I said invisible, didn't I? Okay, is the definition of invisible self, could it be spirit or soul? Is that your question? Well, I sincerely hope so. Okay, there's an alcoholic who I happen to adore because we talked at the break, complicating life. Yeah, absolutely. You can call it invisible self. You can call it your soul. You can call it the spirit. You can call it a dead person. You can call it anything you want. What it is whatever makes you, whatever you believe is inside of you that's connected up to all there is. They call it the silver thread. They call it a million things. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I believe it is my soul. I believe that the spiritual memory of my soul, my spirit, my invisible self will be what I will take with me. The memory, the spiritual memory. I'm not going to remember cars and watches and things. I'm going to take the smiles. I'm going to take the love. I'm going to take the care. I'm going to take the graciousness. I'm going to take all the little things. The memory of that, the memory of the feelings of those kind of things, I will take with me. I believe that I will leave everything that was of darkness or pain behind me in this life. And I believe that's when people, when they pass away, there is such a sense of peace surrounding them, and you feel as though they are free. Yes, they are free. So I believe that that is the same exact thing. And I believe and I don't know about reincarnation or any of it. I mean, I believe if you can think it, it's possible. I don't really know. All I know is that I have connection with great energy, obviously from the other side. I was reading a book of Celtic wisdom just recently to help me through, because I go back to what I need to read in times like this, and the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stuff, and the death and dying, and the children's, I love the stories of the children's perception of death, and the story of the little boy and the little girl. This family had a child. I'm trying to, I've told this story so many times, I've made it my own and completely embellished it. But, a family had a little child, a baby, and they had another little person at home, and the little person wanted to talk to this little baby all the time, and they were a little worried about that. And then they finally said, yes, you can do that. So they put a baby monitor under the pillow of the baby and at the door, so that they could rush in case this little sibling did anything to the baby. But the little person went up and whispered into the baby's ear, help me, I'm beginning to forget God. Help me, I'm beginning to forget God. Now, I have experienced that in my sobriety. And I'm at the point in my sobriety in the last few years where it's help me, I'm beginning to remember God. Help me, I'm beginning to remember God. So I believe those little children, when they're out there, those little babies, and you look in the eyes of babies, they're still connected. I mean, all my life I've heard, in the old Irish saying, when they're smiling, they're dancing and playing with the angels. I believe that. I believe the little nieces, when they have little Anastasias and little friends and all of that, I believe that. I've heard about the stories years ago when cut out all that part, but a woman was doing this study and people that were dying from AIDS, and the little children, then they were dying, they couldn't save them, and at that time, and they had HIV, and they were and beside the bedside, a woman, the mother would sit with her daughter, and let's say that the daughter's name was Susie, and Susie would say, just before, in the dying process, and nurses understand this absolutely, but in the dying process, Susie would say, oh, little Chloe is here, and she's got these dolls, and she, whatever. And the mother thought the little kid was just hallucinating. And then, she ended up a while later in a grief group with the other mothers. And here they all were in this grief group, and another mother said, oh, my little daughter Cynthia was dying, and she saw Susie. And Susie told her that it was really fun, and she would be there with her, and they would go together. And then pretty soon all the mothers got it, that Susie waited for Chloe, and Chloe came for Cindy, and Cindy came for Pat, and all the children were connected up. And they weren't hallucinating, that they were seeing and believing something. Is it true? Who knows? Is it true for me? I want to believe that. I want to believe it. It gives me peace. It gives me peace. So those are the kind of things that I believe the invisible self. So when we talk to each other, you don't think that when I was begging my sister not to go that morning, her invisible self wasn't comforting me, and hasn't comforted me since then. And the American Indians have signs, animal omens. I never really thought much about that. I mean, I'm open to everything. I mean, that's the other thing that happens when you stay sober long enough and you just don't know, and you believe that the results and the knowledge, you're open to everything. And I think, oh, wow, this is really kind of cool. And Jane and I, about 10 or 11 years ago, I saw a white mountain lion walk in front of us when we were somewhere, and I was like, wow, everybody says such a huge sign, and I forgot about it. But 2 days ago, we live in a tall, the roof, the top of a building by the ocean in Santa Monica, taller than trees, roof of the building, much taller than trees. And the other morning, Jane opened up her window, and there was a little owl on the back of the chair. It's back to us, and it turns its head around, and I got it. I got it. What's an owl doing above the trees? We don't even have owls, blah, blah. I got it. And I came and I asked Mandy, because Mandy has sent me a card after my sister passed away, as did a number of you here, so thank you so much for your graciousness and your kindness. And Mandy sent me a card saying, I will ask the animal spirits or something to guide you, and maybe the little wee people. I thought, I got to be careful with those leprechauns, So, and then I thought, that's a sign. Now, is it a sign? I don't know. Is the smoke in the elevator? Jane and I get in the elevator. I mean, this is like really out there for AA, but what the hell? And my sister, I smell the smoke in the elevator in our building, and I thought, oh, God. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I used to blame her for smoking in the elevator all of the time. I think it's Cynthia. She's always smoking in this elevator. And I realized, I have been wrong this entire time. Oh my God, it's not her. And I used to torture her, the non-smoking. And I'm the president of the board of this building, right? And here's my sister all over the building. And now, the woman that I live with, Jane, she's asthmatic and she's allergic to, smoke and perfumes. She's like super sensitive. And I said, oh, I can't believe it. It wasn't her. I mean, all the smoke in the elevator. And she said, I don't smell smoke. Now, is it possible? It happened to me. It became a fact the second it happened to me. The great fact for me was that my reality encompassed those things. They became a fact for me. They might be a fantasy for you, but they're a fact for me. So that is how I perceive that kind of connection. I needed more open. I believe in that. I've always wanted to believe in it. Now I do. And I believe that my grandmother and I'll take the best of the qualities of her. I'll take the best of my uncles. I'll take the unconditional love I received as a child in Ireland from the people that have gone on. I'll take the strength and the laughter and the perseverance and the humility and the humor of my sister, and I will consider it a legacy. I'll take the gentleness of my brother Aiden, and I'll consider it a legacy. I'll take the quietness and the silent quiet of my nephew Tony, and I'll consider it a gift to know that those qualities exist. And I will list them on those inventories, and I will take them as my own and be grateful that they have been passed on to me, and that the spiritual memory of those people is becoming the spiritual memory of me, and that I will someday be able to have somebody say, well, I liked her for who she was. And they'll write these things about me. And it doesn't matter that they do. What matters is that I am available to have that done. Yes?
My question, you mentioned asking, ask, and it's just learning how to receive the answer.
Oh, yeah.
And what kind of, I know there's lots of different signs, you just got to be open to it. So I'd just like you to maybe share a little bit about how to receive the answer.
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. The question is ask, and how do you, make yourself ready to receive, yes? Oh, it's everything, that question. First of all, the willingness to ask. When we're born, we ask, and raise your hand anytime you have a question, because then I can just summarize in seconds and take your question. If you don't raise your hand, I'm going to assume there's no question, I'll just droll on, so. I think that when we're born, do you know that the only things born that are totally, completely helpless are human beings? Like little animals and little horses and everything. I mean, they shake off that stuff and they're wiggle around and they're up on their feet. And they're pretty much self-sufficient kind of right away. I mean, they bump them around and do all that kind of stuff. But by and large, we're the ones that are completely helpless. So from the very beginning, we start to ask, cry, whatever. And then depending on what kind of receiving we are given, I mean, what kind of stuff comes back, we learn to receive. And then therein lies life. And over the years, you have trust levels. This is my experience. I had trust levels of different value with my parents as to what I could trust I would receive and I would not receive. And it affected my trust and my faith, because they disappointed me maybe, or there was abandonment issues, or whatever. It doesn't even matter. I mean, we all have stuff. So my perception of receiving became tainted, and I began not to ask, because and this is just my experience, I then became self-sufficient, because I thought, I am not going to ask. I will not need to receive from you. And I think most alcoholics, not all of them now, have that quality. So by the time I arrived in Alcoholics Anonymous, I had a broken receiver and an inability to ask for help. And that's a tough burden. I was desperate and rendered completely surrendered, thank you, by the miracle of my disease. By the prayers that I prayed on a bathroom floor that I didn't want to pray. please help me. God, help me. Those weren't like conscious, I'm going to ask for help. Far from it. That was the inner me, desperate to cry to the present me, get the help. And I got it anyway. I got it anyway. So I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. It has taken me years within which to learn to receive. How I learned at the beginning, and you're not going to like the answer, is that to make myself ready to receive, and it took a while, I had to show up regularly at meetings so that I could receive that from outside of you. I had to then talk to a person that I didn't even want to talk to, sponsor, on a regular basis, call in and do all that stuff that I did not want to do so I could receive that kind of conditioning. And it's truly unconditional love in its own right. I then had to stop hurting myself by not sleeping properly, eating properly, getting too angry, too lonely, and too tired. I mean, I had to stop producing the defenses that allowed me not to receive. I had to eventually take some chances that actually put me out there, like put your hand out and reach out and have friends and start to do little things when I was terrified of wanting to interact with other people because I was afraid of what they thought of me, or I was terrified, I was just shy, basically, and frightened. And I had to like take those actions. Now I wish it was some big spiritual answer, but it isn't. I had to start reading that big book to find people like me in there that were terrified, frightened human beings who didn't know how to ask or receive. And I had to start pretending there was a God, pretending to use angels because it was easier than the direct contact, pretending to go, and looking for what was right for me and combing through religions and other organized things outside of myself so that I could get into myself, so that I could like begin to receive. And from all of these little things, I mean, I remember the Maharishi and all that stuff. And I hated bringing the fruit. I mean, I had to go through all of that. Rise above it and zone out and regress myself. I mean, I've done it all because, you see, I'm a sober human being. So now I became more proficient over the years of asking to do things, and then I started to receive more and more. I mean, out there stuff, but that's what life is about. We're sober. The joy of living is our problem. It doesn't say the desperation or the sadness or the horror or the torture of living. It says the joy of living. So I needed to spend a whole more time, and I have no problem receiving the dramas and the tragedies. I'm good at those. I mean, like, I'm drop-dead efficient at that stuff. But I have a really hard problem receiving the joy because I'm afraid, because it touches an inherent grief in me. I don't know, I just was born with it. I used to think it was Irish, but then I ran into Jewish people and Italian people and all kinds of people. These Latins or something, and geez, I mean, until you run into a few Mexican people, you're like, done nothing to the Irish. I mean, go to Argentina, oh my God, all over the world, the black soul. I mean, we all have it. We all have this thing, and it's about the receiving thing. So, and now I'm gradually, you progress and you progress and you progress, but you make yourself ready on the outside physically, you make yourself ready on the inside emotionally, and that's where the big book and the 12 and 12 will help you, and then you make yourself ready spiritually, and then that's where the steps will propel you into yourself. The steps, when you first start working them, if you're like me, in the first few years of your sobriety, you ask and you ask and you ask out there, and everything is out there. You're asking, and you're receiving from out there, people, AA, and even it's good stuff, but it's all out there. And that's why you plaster yourself with all this stuff. Trying to clean it up here. All out there. And then pretty soon, the prayer thing kind of like tricks you. And the going to meetings and the believing and the wanting. And you start to want something. So you start asking for peace, and you start asking for help, and you start asking for questions like, and believe me, you don't want to kick this into high gear spiritually? Start asking questions every day. Dear God, dear Jesus, dear Chair, dear Great Spirit, dear whatever. What do I do about this? Do I stay? Do I go? Do I make the phone call? Do I not make the phone call? Ask 1,000 questions. Try not to trick an answer in there, like slip it in anyway. Just ask, what do I do about this? How about if I blah, 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 and then you think God answered your question. Don't you think it would be good if, So Somebody said, how do you know God's speaking to you? I said, because the event will create itself that I have to react to, not the thought. The event. The situation will present itself, or the event will create itself that I have to react to, and I go, oh, wow, that's the answer. So no, I don't rush around. So you just ask 1,000 questions. Thank you, I need and love you, Lila, and, sign off. Throw it, and I write initials so I can't read the crap again, because who cares? And I just throw it out, and I read it, and I write it the next day. And maybe I write the next thing, and the next thing, by the 5th day, you know what, I've stopped writing because that question's gone. I'm on to a whole bunch of other things. But it's the practice of believing, of asking the question, and the believing I'm going to get the answer. Came to believe that a power greater than yourself will give you what you need, that you will receive the ability to receive. It's a secret thing. And then after a while, you'll start asking and asking and asking, and then you know what will happen? You'll start saying thank you for getting it. Because you'll tune in and you'll think, whoa, I get it. And you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. The more you say thank you, the more you get. It's kind of like the way it is. The more you resist it, the more resistance you get. The more you say thank you, the more you get. And then before you know it, you're not afraid to ask at all, because you realize you're asking for the best of what it is for yourself and other people. You're really asking for the better nature of who you are. You're asking for the invisible self to have a more dominant role in your life. That's what you're asking for, and then you begin to receive it, and then you will be unafraid to receive, because you realize that this is the healing that you've been waiting for your whole life. And then you'll just come to expect it. And if you're like me, you'll get arrogant about it, and you'll have a sign on your desk that says, expect a miracle. And the days you forget, you'll walk by and you go, oh yeah, I better expect that miracle. Not, oh no, I'm not going to get it, or don't deserve it, or any of that other junk. No, 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 no. It doesn't exist in my mind. I don't do any of that. I ask, I'm going to get an answer. There's no no in the spiritual universe. If there's no waste, there's no no. There's only 3 answers that I've ever had experience with in my 34.5 years of sobriety. Yes, not at this time, and I have something better in store for you. No, no. There'll be no no. And the only criteria, the only condition for that is wait until we're ready, because we will only give you as much as you can handle, and the grace of God now will not take you where the grace of God cannot keep you. So you will never have a burden you cannot carry. You will never be alone, and all you have to do is make yourself ready. And if you get too tired, too angry, too lonely, and don't do all the basic, practical things they taught you in the first 6 months of your sobriety, you're going to make yourself unable to receive. And if you do, make yourself available and ask, well, I'm telling you, get out of the way. Get out of the way. And if you're afraid and you don't have a God, ask one of your dead relatives. They're delighted. They're sitting there waiting. They're dusting off the little pathways of light to beam down to you. So, yes.
As far as sponsorship go, is it pretty imperative that you hook up with somebody that you can talk to and that will receive what you're saying? I mean, I know you don't always want to hear what they're saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay. So, okay, I understand. As far as sponsors are concerned, is it imperative to hook up with someone that you want to hear what they're going to say, or that they want to hear?
Talk to somebody that you can talk to unconditionally, say whatever you need to say.
Okay.
Type thing.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, I know you don't always want to hear what they're saying.
Okay.
That's not what
Is it imperative that you connect up with someone that you can talk unconditionally to, and that then you can hear back what they want to say? Okay. Well, it's not imperative because it doesn't work, okay, for a lot of people. Because that's how we learn in AA, to get the right person, sometimes by process of substitution. If you have a person that you're talking to, my opinion, in Alcoholics Anonymous, my opinion means it's just my opinion. It isn't right or wrong. There's thousands of ways now. But my opinion is, if you're talking to someone in Alcoholics Anonymous and you cannot absolutely tell that person every single solitary, dark little secret that you have in that mind of yours, soul, heart, and body, you are talking to the wrong person. Now, at the beginning, in the first few months, it doesn't matter if you're talking to Orangutan Smith. As long as Orangutan Smith goes to meetings regularly, Make sure that you're putting the coffee out with that person, brings you early, sits you in the front friggin' row. Make sure that when there's a new person in the room, you're up there shaking their hand. Make sure that you thank the speaker whether you want to or not, and is teaching you the ropes of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have had people teach me the ropes of Alcoholics Anonymous that I have had nothing in common with. And I mean nothing in common with. Because how you start is how you finish. That's why we all get to start every time we want to. Now, along the way, you're going to do the practical program of application of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. You're going to make your effort to understand that you're powerless over alcohol and made your life unmanageable. Of course, look at your shoes, your car, your life, you know, your bank account. You pretty much know what that, very, very basic stuff. Then you're going to come to believe that a power could restore you to sanity because you're going to realize you're insane because you've been doing the same thing over and over expecting different results. And you're going to wonder, what the hell is that about? And they're going to explain that to you because it doesn't take a You're going to make a decision to turn things over because you know you can't handle it because you're fresh off the bathroom floor and you get that. And you're the most spiritual you ever will be in your entire sobriety if you're like me in the first 6 months of your sobriety. The most spiritual, up until and including today, was when I knew I could do nothing but turn it over. And you turn it over and you turn it over. Oh, turn it over, turn it over. And they're saying to you, think, first things first, but for the grace of God, and you're living on those slogans. And you're hoping that everything they say is correct, and you're living on hope, which is the second step, and the honesty of knowing you're an alcoholic, which is the first step, and then you're going to be living on the faith that if I turn this over, everything's going to be okay with me. And that's all you're living on for the first 6 months, a year of your sobriety. And if you think it's anything else, you're kidding yourself. You're living in honesty, faith, and hope. 1, 2, 3, that's it. Now you're sober a little while, you got it under your belt, you think, that person doesn't know what they're doing. That's okay, they'll move on to the next newcomer, because there's a lot of people that love to do that, and they're there. There's a lid for every pot. There's, you know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, no mistakes, no waste. And then you're going to want to do deeper, and they'll have you take an inventory. Well, does it matter? You're just writing down the basic stuff, most of which will be about other people because that's where you're at. And then they'll have you run out and make all those amends, and they're basic amends. Bring your checkbook, you know, whatever. Then you're going to do that, and you're not going to be too much worried about, you know, about 6 and 7 and 11, you know, really, and 12 will be that you're going to run around and take a newcomer to a meeting, and that's fine. That's as much as you can handle. And they're great for that, the sponsors. And then time will come along. And then you're going to do whatever your kind of like peer group does. If your peer group is a bunch of people who like all dress the same, look the same, sound the same, and if, you know, you're going to do that. And if your peer group is like, no, I'm reclusive and I go to the meetings with the smokers, and I'm not criticizing, don't misunderstand now, 2 or 3 people and, you know, deer in the backwoods, okay, fine, you're going to be your kind of sobriety. And then you're going to go for a while, a few years doing that, and then you're going to think, well, that's not enough, and you're going to start praying by accident. And then you're going to end up needing to do the steps more. And then you're going to have to find that person where they listen to your soul, where you can absolutely go to the next level, where they are not going to judge you, they're not going to even have an opinion, and probably not give you any advice at all. They're going to unconditionally love you while you fall down and get up. Fall down and get up. Now, if you harm yourself or someone else, they're going to come all over you like a gigantic fire truck. They're going to say, this is unacceptable. You cannot do this. And at that point, you'll probably say, I'm out of here, or whatever you're going to say. But that's what they're going to do. They're going to tell you the truth, and they're going to tell you going to meetings, you're not going to enough meetings, and they're going to do all of that, but they're going to love you. They're going to love you no matter what you do. You're going to know in your heart that even if you don't do what they tell you or suggest, they're going to love you anyway, unless you harm yourself or harm someone else. And if you are going to harm yourself, you will drink, and they will not let you do that. That's the ideal situation. It'll be parts of that, up and down, throughout your sobriety. You must have someone you talk to. That's why over the years, sometimes that ends up being a friend or two that know you forever. And then, you know, and if you have the right, my opinion, I had the kind of sponsor that if she didn't have that experience, she would shoot me off to somebody else to go talk about it. You know, get out there. Get out there. You run into people in Alcoholics Anonymous who want you to sponsor them for whatever reason. It's got nothing to do with their sobriety. It's got everything to do with ego and nonsense. And you pick up on that right away too, and it's very, very hard. And you have to make decisions about that. And you'll have people drink at you and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it just comes with the territory. But if you keep your side of the street clear, if you know that you're doing the best you can and you're unconditionally loving that person, then you can be that sponsor and they'll pick it up. They will know. But yes, if you're hanging around with somebody and you can't tell them your deepest dark secret and trust them with it, you're with the wrong person, you're wasting your time. And more important, you're wasting their time because they're sincere. I have yet to meet someone in Alcoholics Anonymous with sponsoring somebody that isn't the most sincere human being on the face of the planet the day they're helping that person. They're absolutely, completely open, and you are spiritually harming them when you have all this other bullshit going on in your head. They don't have a clue. And if you're sponsoring them and you're looking at them and you realize that, you know, their motives are not pure and they're not doing what you need them to do in order to stop harming themselves and other people, then it's wrong not to tell them. And you're harming them.
You talked a little bit about meeting in kind of a discussion group to go through the steps once a month with people that you did this with. Can you maybe talk about what that format was like, how it was similar or different from a steps?
Oh, yes, yes. I talked about the little group where we got together and what the format sort of was and how it was different or not. Okay. It started really out because I had a couple of babies who wouldn't read the book. And so did actually. No, so did Gretchen. No, and we decided that we would get together and help them read the book. It was for them. See, it wasn't for us. It was for them. And that we would like do that, and then we would take them through the book. Well, you know, they like flaked off and did whatever they did. I don't even remember now. But it turned into, God knows how many years ago, us needing the book, us being consistent, us being the ones that weren't consistent, me needing to take myself through the steps. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So one thing led to another, and it was informal, and then it became a little more formalized because there were 8 or 10 people. Now we knew that it couldn't be a AA meeting, so it is not an AA meeting. Even though we conduct it under the auspices and the guidance of AA, it is not, because we can't put everybody in the room. So in my opinion, if you exclude anyone for any reason from a meeting, it is not an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, period. So it's not honest, but so then over the years it became a little more formalized, and pretty soon we had we have a little format, and it's we open up the meeting with introductions, and then we check to see if anybody has birthdays, and then we ask if there's anybody speaking around, because the people in our meeting pretty much a lot of time, and they're around, and we like to hear each other. We never get to, but I'll hear Dodie this weekend, Jane, but and we ask about that, and then we have read in advance the portion of the book and the 12 and 12 that we're going to be discussing. And then we discuss that. We talk about our experience with the step, whether we understood it or we didn't understand it, what it meant to us, what that portion of the book meant to us, and all of that. Now, that's what we do. There are tons of these groups going on out there. I don't have a clue what they do, but I'll tell you this. The people I run into, they get to know each other on a very intimate basis. Now, some of the people think this is a cult. I actually got a call once saying, is this a cult? I said, well, don't you have to have a leader to have a cult? Like a leader of some sort? I said, because I am not in Massachusetts, and I don't even know you people, and I don't care whether you do it or not. So I don't think I'm a good leader if I was one. So, no, it's not a cult. It's a group of people getting together to do the steps and to use that format to find their God. And we end the meeting with the Serenity Prayer. And it's like the best AA meeting of the month for me. They're all good, but I can't wait to go there. Why? Because as the years have progressed, we're talking about knowing each other on an intimate level. I mean, we're talking about saying, I remember being in there one time saying, I don't believe in God anymore. The darkest fear has come upon me. I have no conscious contact with God. I am so aware of my lack of faith and trust. I don't think there's a God. It's bullshit. It's just to make me feel better. Now, is that not frightening to someone? I was terrified myself to that degree, sober. I was able to discuss that kind of thing. You can become very intimate, so that's what it is. Some of the people will drop out around the 3rd or 4th month because they don't want to do the work or whatever. Do you know what I mean? They just won't do it. We have a don't forget now, we've been doing this for a long time. We send out a calendar a year ahead of time with the Sundays. And there's like whatever number of us in the group, 8 or 10 or something. And if you can't make that date, your job is to call all the other people, set a new date, and, you know, that's that. Believe me, when you have to call all those people, you knock yourself out to get there. And, you know, and once a month, it's 12 months, so some people double up, but everybody gets an assignment, their month, and they get to bring everything. We're like self-cleaning little ovens. We bring the person who's assigned that month, they're in charge of the meeting. So they're the ones that facilitate the meeting. And they bring the plates and the little treat and, you know, everything. And it started out in a home, and then it went to this little tiny room in a church. And, you know, the person in charge that month is in charge of everything. They lead the meeting, and then the next month somebody else does it. And they bring the cups and the garbage bag, and it's like they're totally 100% in charge. It's perfect. So that's what we do. And believe me, people come and they go, and if they go, we ask them to graciously just leave without their opinion. We're not interested in it, really. And wish them well, because it's just our way. And what it has become is a spiritual energy that we share once a month more than anything else. And it is absolutely so huge for me. I wouldn't read the book or the 12 and 12 every month if I didn't go to that group. Now, that's the truth. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be as practiced as I am if I did not meet these women and read that book. Yes?
My question is, I have a really hard time about letting go of the past. I carry it with me. I drudge it back up. I try to let go of it and heal from it the next thing I know I'm going. But before, and this is because the same thing has been repeated so many times throughout my life that I'm wounded from it, but I don't want to live back there anymore.
Right.
So applying these steps in this program, how do I
Okay.
get myself to
Fourth dimension. I have a very hard time letting go of the past, is your question. And now if I use the steps, how do I rocket myself into the fourth dimension and do that? Is that right? Okay. Well, that's going to be easy. You can make a decision that you are powerless over whatever it is you can't let go. You can come to second step. You can ask for the power to let it go, and you can make the decision to do that. You can take an inventory in the fourth step of what the residuals of this thing is that you don't want to let go. You can talk with somebody else about it. You can accept that that is now ready to go. You can ask 7, you can ask for help, humbly. Say, would you mind taking this away? And you can look at 8 and 9, and you can see if there's anybody connected to that you need to clean up any business with. Usually you don't. You can look at 10, and you can say, I have now, in the second, let it go. You can say in 11, how do I keep it away from me? Question in 11. You can go to bed at night and you can thank your God for taking that away, and you can ask that God of your understanding to keep it away from you. You will wake up the next day, it will not be there. You will be grateful for that. You'll go out saying, oh my God, you'll go to the meeting, hopefully, you'll say thank you. You'll validate that it wasn't there, and you'll get used to talking about it not being there as opposed to being there. When it comes back, you will say, it is back. It is back. You will know immediately when it is back. It will become heavier and darker every time. You will say, I've got to get rid of you. I need the power to do that. I'm making the decision. We've already been through the crap. I'm not spending any more time on inventories and drama with you. We are done. Then you write the inventory about what's right about you and why this does not fit in your life anymore. And you write an inventory that is only positive things, completely. You read that to the person, you accept that. You say, God, now can you help me with this? And you do it one more time. If it comes back, you are creating your own misery. You are manufacturing it. You are denying yourself the ability to receive your life. And you are in a huge character defect, which is of your own making. You get down on your knees wherever you are, preferably if you can't, in a bathroom, somewhere, anywhere, it doesn't matter. And you can say, help me from myself. Abandon myself to you, to do with me as you will, because that God, your universe, your light, has no value in you hanging out in the past. So it's a decision that you make all the time. And the minute it comes to your head, it's get rid of it. It is unacceptable. You don't need to understand it anymore. It is just a burden. If we did not use that approach, which, by the way, we use every day, we do not drink, we would never stop drinking. And when you stopped drinking and you got off your bathroom floor and you came to Alcoholics Anonymous, they said, put the plug in the jug, it's over. You can never drink again for the rest of your life, no matter what. Period. Never again can you drink. You burn it into the consciousness of you. The same exact thing. You are no reason for you to have this past come back to haunt you. Whatever it is, you have survived it, you are done. You are, every second that you spent there, you're not spending here. Treat it like a drink. Recoil from it when it comes to you. Maggie.
Is there some connection between the feeling of lifetime loneliness and the grief that you mentioned you felt you were born with?
Is there some connection between lifetime loneliness and the grief that I mentioned that I was born with? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. I spent all my life grieving for what I imagined or what I thought I didn't have or what I thought should be. And now I'm going to try to spend the rest of my life creating what I do have and what I want to be. It's just a matter of, is the glass half empty, is it half full? Am I going to live in the past? Am I going to live in the present? Am I going to drink from the glass of life or am I not? No. Yes. I think underneath it all, we are profoundly grief-stricken and sad. I am. Because I was silent about my disappointments. But I'm not that silent anymore. You see, now I can talk to them with somebody else. Now I can talk out the grief. Now I can talk it out. I can listen to other people. So it's very important to recognize that all of those things are no longer of value to me. What's of value to me, believe it or not, is the joy of living. And anything that's in the way of that, I have to get rid of, and that's what the steps are for. Because look at the way they walk you through. They say, look, be honest enough to see what you're unmanageable over and what's making you powerless. Have enough hope now to know that you're not going to have to be, it doesn't say perfect, it just says in balance, not insane. Then have enough faith to ask for the help, to turn your entire self over. It didn't say the problem. It didn't say turn over whatever it is I'm worried about. It says turn you over. And then look at what's in the way of you not getting the help. That's what the inventory is for. You're really just, an inventory is nothing more than a cleaning up job. What's in the way of me? Then you talk to somebody in case you miss something. And if they're really good at and they're consistent with you, they're going to say, oh, okay, we got to clean that up. They're cleaning it up. Now you accept the situation so you can get rid of it. Now you've gotten rid of it, you're asking God in 7, keep it gone. Now you're looking at 8 and 9 in case you run into some nutcase that's going to remind you and bring it back. Isn't that really what you're doing, kind of selfishly? And then at 10, you're going, okay, I'm clear right now. Then you say, keep it gone, keep it gone, keep it gone, and then you realize it really works, it's gone. Now, that's the process. And the second it comes back, and from once you start to work the steps that way, believe me, when something comes back, it's as if the weight of the world, it'll torture you. So, yes, my grief has become my greatest asset because the liability of my grief has kept me so earthbound that now my grief inside of me that I feel that I was destined to have is making me rise outside of myself because I can't bear it anymore. So it's become an asset because I don't want it to tag me down anymore. I need it to be lighter. Okay, and then we'll have to...
Under what circumstances do you resign as a sponsor?
Under... Oh, oh God, I should have stopped. Under what circumstances do you resign as a sponsor? Oh, yeah. Under what circumstances do you resign as a sponsor? I couldn't have answered this question a couple of months ago. I would have had a totally different answer. I just am in the process of an experience where I'm from the old school. You don't resign. You don't resign. You sponsor them even if they're drinking. You just wait till they get back. What the hell? You don't resign. Well, I got fired. Fine. It was a relief, frankly. But I was praying for something because, you see, this person, here I am, know a lot about the steps, and I got a baby that won't do any of them. And that was fine, and I unconditionally loved her and all that kind of stuff, and then she harmed people. And she harmed herself. So the fact of the matter is, I didn't know what to do about that, because I come from this rigid old school. You don't fire anybody, hire and fire, and blah, 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 blah. So yes, there are times, I think, when you have to let somebody go. And I believe, for me, that the time to let somebody go is when they absolutely continue to harm themselves and other people, usually as a means of, by gross dishonesty, by their gross dishonesty, on whatever level that may be, that they end up harming themselves and other people, and they do not take your direction, and in the face of your best love and unconditional support, they continue to behave the same way. I believe I am no longer helping that person, and I must let them go. And then when they want you back, and they say all the right things, and you think, oh my God, how can I let this person go? You have to let them go. And I received a phone call last night here in Oregon about this very thing. And I cannot go backwards. Now, this person's having a little trouble in their life, and I will, keep an arm's length response. But I said, in the face of that trouble, I am not going to do this. I will not do it. And perhaps the reason that you have not found someone else to sponsor you is because of the personalities that you pick. And I was not kidding when I said the word personalities. You have to pick someone that you're going to listen to and that you have some confidence in, and you don't have to be the same as them. They have to love you, but you have to listen to them. And I believe if I do not listen, if they do not listen to me, then you know something, I cannot and will not sponsor them. And I'm not sure that I have done myself or that person a service by sponsoring her for as long as I did. But I didn't have the courage. And I had an old idea about Alcoholics Anonymous. I had that old idea. I have so many old ideas about Alcoholics Anonymous that I've had to let go. And that was one of them. And I was harming her. I was harming her, and I did not make myself available to other people. And it's been very difficult for me. And I'm still struggling with to what degree do I involve myself now, because her mother may or may not be well and ill and all that kind of stuff. And, it's a mother. It's got all the ingredients of this is like, get her back. I could be right back in there. But you know what? No. Because if I think that I am the only person that can help somebody else, oh my God, what a dangerous role that is in. And I'm not in that position. God will provide. I did tell her what I would do for her is I would pray for her. And I sure will and have last night and will continue to do that, and she will be on the top of the list. And I did advise her that perhaps what she needs to do is make a list of questions for her God about all of these things that she does not know to do. And I did suggest that she pray, and I did suggest that she talk, and we talked about certain people, that her very dear friend, that she talk to her every single solitary day. So I made the suggestions that I would want somebody to make to me. And then I hung up the phone and I said my prayers, and I was relieved that I had not gotten back involved in that, because I do not, that is not, it would have been my ego taking over, and you know what? I didn't feel right about it. I don't now, so that was a powerful question. I wonder about sponsorship in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it doesn't matter. But again, there's a lid for every pot, and everybody ends up exactly where they're supposed to be. And I have great respect for anybody that sponsors anybody and anybody that's a sponsee. I have no respect for people that feel that they have rules and regulations that I don't see where they're written, and I will not abide, nor will I have anything to do with anyone that excludes anybody or feels that if you are not a certain anything, then you are restricted in Alcoholics Anonymous or excluded. I think one of the ways to kill alcoholics is to isolate them. Isolate them or make them feel like they're not welcome and they're not loved. We're the most frightened, terrified human beings on the face of this planet. When we get here, and during the time that we're here, and during the times that we are beginning to face our greatest difficulties and our grief, and our relationships and our love, and opening ourselves up to all those mistakes, we need such love and care. I cannot tolerate anybody rejecting anyone in Alcoholics Anonymous, telling them what to do and saying, if you don't do it my way, you're out of here, and then having everybody else agree with that. I'm adverse to this kind of thing. If I believe that if you don't talk to somebody and they don't talk about the steps in God, you're with the wrong person. And that was what I was missing in that relationship, by the way. I miss, God, steps, beep, boom, boom, realized that over the years, what was missing was I was doing all the talking about God. I was doing all the talking. So who benefited most from that relationship? I learned a lot. But I realize now that it was a one-way street. I was out of balance. I was the big sponsor, and this was and now it's here. So I talked to my friend on the phone last night, but I did not talk to a sponsee. Thank you very much for being so patient.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. Shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.